Alrighty, how's it going, everybody? It's Sandwhichpants here today, and I gotta check the stream health. This is a problem. Go ahead and just unmute that. Close it down now. Close that page. Is there anything else I need to close? My PC is pretty poor. Okay, that's a lot better. That's a lot better. 52%, and a large portion of that is actually 9 to 12% being crisp. And then if you scroll down, you'll notice somewhere is Streamlabs with its huge, absolutely huge amount of pull on my... Here we go. It kind of depends on what's being used at any given point, but it can go from, look at that, 6.9, 0.3, 0.3, so that's quite a bit, and then 4.8, yeah, this'll keep going. Discord's using a small amount, but they just updated it. So I think we're good. Let's go ahead and check the stream health again. Let's open that up real quick. Oh, come on. Why are you poor? Why do you suck right now? I don't know. It shouldn't be that much of a pull. We've got good internet. Not entirely sure. Anyways, let's go ahead and jump right into this. So, what we've got going on right now is we've got some Myanmar stuff, is what these top three are. Let's go ahead and start. Yeah, we'll go ahead and start in here. We've got, that was from today, or yesterday, that was from today, and that was from a couple days ago. So let's go over this, because I didn't have internet for a couple days. So let's go over this, and then we'll move on to the other videos.
Maintaining their momentum, thousands of protesters again pour onto the streets across Myanmar in their civil disobedience campaign against last Monday's coup. There are many different groups representing many walks of life.
This campaign is a little strange in Burmese culture, but we think that the main goal is to get attention from other countries. So all the boys joining this campaign are risking their lives and putting aside their shame.
Joining trade unions and groups of workers already taking part in the movement, some police officers in Kaya State broke ranks and joined the protesters, calling themselves the police of the people. Someone who was in the 1988 Myanmar student uprising that ended in a violent military crackdown says this movement has much broader support.
I think that the military will not be able to use their might in full extent, because the time is different, the world is different now. You can see that the world's leaders came out with the strong statements, especially the New Zealand Prime Minister Ardern came out with this very strong statement that they cut the relationship with the military regime.
Jo Tensway, a top aide to Aung San Suu Kyi, and several others with links to the ousted government were taken from their homes overnight, joining the more than 140 leaders taken in the first hours of the coup, including Suu Kyi. Officials from the Electoral Commission are also reported to have been taken. The junta says that the NLD landslide victory in November was fraudulent, citing that as the main reason for its takeover. The U.S. announced that it will impose sanctions against the military rulers, a move that more nations are expected to follow. A slowdown on foreign investment is also anticipated. Like previous periods of military dictatorship, that could lead to the country tightening its already close economic relationship with China. Myanmar is one of the poorest countries in Southeast Asia, and sanctions and a potential return to pariah status to most of the outside world could undo the economic progress since the election in 2015. But for now, the message and the goal for the protesters are clear. Get as many people as possible out on the streets, while at the same time drawing in more international attention and involvement. Scott Heidler, Al Jazeera.
Okay, let's bring in our correspondent Florence Louis following those developments from Kuala Lumpur. Florence, what more did the coup leader have to say in this written statement?
Well, he's urged government workers to return to work to stop the strike, and he's also blaming the work strike on, he said, quote, unscrupulous persons, harassment from unscrupulous persons. He's urging people to avoid large assemblies because of coronavirus concerns. And it also appears to be a different tactic by the military, a softly approach, because also included in that statement is a line about how the military will review the laws on benefits to civil servants. Now, it appears to be seen whether or not these words will have any impact on the protests, which don't seem to be losing any momentum. And, you know, just a quick check on social media. People are already pouring scorn on Min Aung Hlaing's comments, with many people saying we're scared of coronavirus, but it's worse to live under military dictatorship. And other people are saying the only reason we're out on the streets is because this coup took place. And yet more others are saying that people who are taking part in the strikes are the people who are truly loyal to the country. Now, the fact that this is Min Aung Hlaing's first statement on the protests and also his second statement in 4 days suggests that the military is perhaps feeling the pressure from what's happening in the country. These protests are in their 6th successive day, and they don't seem to be losing any momentum, and the civil disobedience strike is also growing larger as each day. Rail workers being the latest group to join in the workers' strike. Peter.
Florence, thank you very much. Florence Louis there reporting live from Kuala Lumpur.
All right. So it's good that police joined in with the protesters. That's a good thing. And they have every single right to be worried about a military dictatorship. I do not trust any military who steps in to take control. That's why I don't trust the tankies. As a matter of fact, I legitimately, just on Twitter, this is very relevant. I should be signed into my Twitter that I'll let you guys. Yeah. This person, right here. See this? Lesbian, communist, misandrist, feminist. The instant I saw that, I knew that this person was a fucking idiot. Right here. Eleonora, dipshit. Absolute fucking horrible dipshit. A. Misandrist feminist. That's second wave feminism. They were shitheads. Absolutely awful people. This is why people didn't like the idea of feminism, is because of the second wave feminists. When I pointed out that that was terrible, he said you can't be a gender abolitionist without being a misandrist, which is a complete lie. So misrepresenting points left and right. If I were the Soviets, I would simply let the Nazis conquer and genocide all of Poland. This is the mindset that the people who defend Stalin have, the tankies. If you defend the bullshit that Stalin and Mao did, you're not a leftist. You can look at the individual things, and you can criticize Stalin, and also take away good things from the policies and shit that the Soviets implemented. Oh god. But you cannot. You just cannot. You can't be seen as a fucking leftist. The anarchists stop the Bolsheviks? Yeah. You just can't have this mindset and actually be a fucking leftist. It's not leftism. It's honestly ridiculous that that's the kind of thing I have to put up with from somebody who claims to be a leftist, somebody who's saying they're a fucking communist. You're not a communist. You're an authoritarian shit. Like, I guarantee that person would work with the Proud Boys or with the KKK if they could get them to align on a solution for some of the problems. They would align with them. Because aligning with fascists is what the tankies do. The fact they'll turn around and ally with Nazis, with authoritarians, to get their goals accomplished is the fucking problem. That's just something that absolutely had to bring up. And so, yeah, that's a big deal right there. This is another short little video. It's a minute and 45. I don't have a whole lot to add into this. Arrests fuel anger in Myanmar protests. I'm sure. Because when you're arresting people for protesting, it kind of pisses people off. We've experienced that here in America. Hong Kong has experienced it over there. Now, I'm not 100% on the whole China-Hong Kong situation. I haven't looked fully into it. I know. I haven't done my full due diligence. But I'm a very busy person. So, give me some credit.
In Myanmar's biggest city, Yangon, 28-year-old protester Spidey 2 is suiting up. His name is a pseudonym, his costume another way to conceal his identity. And he needs to do that, he says, because police are coming at night to arrest people. Arrest raids in recent days have added to anger over the detention of democracy icon Aung San Suu Kyi. And Yangon, Mandalay and the capital Naypyidaw witnessed the 8th straight day of protests on Saturday. The United Nations Human Rights Office said on Friday that more than 350 people, including officials, activists and monks, have been arrested since the February the 1st coup. The government did not respond to requests for comment. The army says it seized power because of alleged fraud in a November election that Suu Kyi's National League for Democracy won by a landslide. Complaints that have been dismissed by Myanmar's Electoral Commission. On Friday, the 47-member UN Human Rights Council adopted a resolution calling on Myanmar to release Suu Kyi and other officials from detention and refrain from using violence on protesters. The United States began imposing sanctions on the ruling generals and some businesses linked to them this week, and US Charge d'Affaires Mark Hasser urged others to follow that example.
Join us in promoting accountability for those responsible for the coup, including through targeted sanctions.
Myanmar's most important ally, China, told the special session in Geneva that it was working towards a return to normal in its neighbour. But Ambassador Chen Zhu also added that, quote, what happened in Myanmar is essentially Myanmar's internal affairs.
Okay. That's honestly to have been expected from China. Not exactly a good place. So, you know the fun stuff. You know how this goes. Oh, that's an ancient video. Destiny versus JonTron. 1.7 million views. Jeez. Okay. And then we've got military pushes punitive cybersecurity bill.
Buddhist monks were among the many marching in Yangon. They led prayers outside the U.S. Embassy to call for the release of Aung San Suu Kyi and other civilian leaders.
We just want our country to escape from under the military dictatorship, to be peaceful and developed. We don't want to go back to the darkest era before 2010. We want peace and we are against the military dictatorship.
More marched in the capital Naypyidaw, joining thousands for an 8th day of protests which denounced nighttime raids against coup opponents. While a curfew is in place from 8 p.m. until 4 a.m. local time, people have been out and on edge. Neighborhood watch groups do their best to warn when police are coming. In some cases, they turn away to avoid confrontation. In others, people are taken away. A local watchdog group for political prisoners says the raids are targeting dissenting voices.
A lot of us, who were involved in the pro-democracy movement in the past are on like a high alert. Like we activated our safety protocols and we don't even sleep in one place. We move one after another. And a lot of activists, even though they are not arrested, are concerned that they may be targeted next.
The UN Human Rights Council has called on the junta to release all who've been arbitrarily detained. The army responded on Saturday by suspending laws requiring court orders to detain suspects for more than a day, for searching private property and surveillance. More than 350 people have been arrested since the coup on February 1st.
The military also shot peaceful protesters, raided the ruling party's offices, and confiscated documents, records, and property. Moreover, it placed restrictions on people's freedom of speech by preparing a telecommunications bill intended to control access to the internet and mobile services.
As state TV channels broadcast pictures of vandalism and attacks on police vehicles, the head of the military, General Min Aung Hlaing, has been on the airwaves repeating allegations of voter fraud in last November's parliamentary elections. More errors have been found in the voter rolls, he says. The nation must join hands with the military for the successful realization of democracy. As protests grow in size and begin to affect its flow of cash, the military is about to give itself even more powers, the cybersecurity law that Human Rights Watch calls the dream of despots everywhere, making protests more difficult to organize and the pictures of them riskier to share. Andrew Chappelle, Al Jazeera.
All right. That's definitely not good. Anytime a government comes down with some punitive cybersecurity shit, you can start to look into how bad their shit actually is at this point, or at least you should start looking into how bad their shit actually is, because anytime they're cracking down on things being shared or anything like that through the internet, that means they're trying to hide some shit. I mean, there's going to be some obvious exceptions for things that are like national security. I'm sure that's probably really loud. But yeah, there's guaranteed to be some stuff for some national security reasons. Yeah, let's turn that down to where this one actually is. But outside of that, I don't see any real reason for cracking down on what people share as individuals. Oh, Lord. I'm debating a fucking idiot. On Twitter, that is. That Eleanor person I showed earlier. Absolute dipshit. Now, there's somebody who I might be having onto Discord. They might be jumping into the stream, and we might be having a conversation. So I'll get a good introduction in a little while. But as it sits, I've got some more domestic news. I better roll up this joint. Come here, joint. So let's close this. And let's maneuver over to fucking Cuomo being a dipshit and having lied. So I'll comment on this after the video.
This morning, growing fallout for New York Governor Andrew Cuomo and his administration over withholding COVID death toll numbers in nursing homes. His top aide, Melissa DeRosa, telling Democratic lawmakers this week on a private call, "We froze," concerned that the information was going to be used against us after receiving a request from the Department of Justice last year. Those comments, first reported by the New York Post, sparked immediate backlash among lawmakers on both sides of the aisle. Democratic State Senator Andrew Gennardez tweeting, "This is a betrayal of the public trust." Republican Congressman Tom Reed says he's filing a criminal complaint against Cuomo's aide.
She needs to be arrested.
Responding to the criticism, DeRosa released a statement clarifying her remarks. "We needed to temporarily set aside the legislature's request to deal with the federal request first. We informed the houses of this at the time. We were comprehensive and transparent in our responses to the DOJ and then had to immediately focus our resources on the second wave and vaccine rollout. We could not fulfill their request as quickly as anyone would have liked." The growing scrutiny comes just weeks after New York Attorney General Letitia James released a report claiming the state had undercounted nursing home deaths by as much as 50%. State health officials acknowledged the death toll was more than 15,000, much higher than originally reported. On Friday, 14 Democratic state senators called to repeal Cuomo's emergency powers in the pandemic, joining the Republican-led effort. Governor Cuomo defended his administration's actions in late January.
A third of all deaths in this nation are from nursing homes. New York State, we're only about 28% only, but we're below the national average in number of deaths in nursing homes. But who cares? 33, 28, died in a hospital, died in a nursing home. They died.
Often praised for his leadership early on in the pandemic, the governor is now
Okay, so there's something I want to point out there. When I first saw the headline for that, the way that they had stated it was like he was saying, who cares that people died in nursing homes and stuff like that? But this added context, and see, context is very important. It's very important. Because this added context of him saying, 28% died in nursing homes, 33% died in nursing homes or hospitals or wherever, who cares? They died. As in, what does it matter where they died? They're fucking dead. And that's the issue we need to deal with. That little bit right there actually adds a more positive light to what he had said previously. Although, in this case, I disagree with him not doing his job.
now coming under fire and tackling a new crisis. And Governor Cuomo was at the White House yesterday to discuss COVID relief with other governors and mayors. And while in Washington, he did not address the ongoing controversy here in New York.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel.
Yeah, that's super loud. I'm not going with Fox and Friends. Actually, you know what? Let's laugh at somebody for a minute. I'm down for a good laugh.
Begin with a Fox News alert. Former President Trump acquitted in his second impeachment trial.
7 Republicans sided with Democrats to convict him of inciting an insurrection.
Our own Griff Jenkins live in Washington, D.C. with the aftermath. Griff, good morning.
Good morning, Pete, Will, and Jed. It was a wild day indeed that almost dragged out for weeks, but ended up being the shortest impeachment trial in history, just 5 days. Democrats voted unanimously to convict, but fell short, 57-43 to acquit. Only 7 Republicans you see here crossed the aisle. They needed 17. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell voted to acquit, then delivered a harsh rebuke suggesting Trump could still be criminally prosecuted. Watch.
We have a criminal justice system in this country. We have civil litigation. And former presidents are not immune from being accountable by either one. President Trump is still liable for everything he did while he was in office as an ordinary citizen.
Speaker Pelosi blasted Republicans who voted to acquit, calling them cowardly and adding this.
Hang Mike Pence was the chant, and they just dismissed that. Why? Because maybe they can't get another job. What is so important about the political survival of any one of us that is more important than our Constitution that we take an oath to protect and defend?
Former President Trump reacted to his acquittal, thanking his attorneys and supporters, and teasing this in a statement. In the months ahead, I have much to share with you, and I look forward to continuing our incredible journey together to achieve American greatness for all of our people.
Oh, so he's gonna come out with some bullshit, and he's gonna be like, I learned this is the president. I learned it, folks, but they kept my hands tied. It's gonna be some funny shit. Absolutely hilarious. My God damn it. Nina Turner. I absolutely love when I come across dipshit profiles who say things like, the squad is a bunch of frauds, including Nina Turner, when literally none of the people who say this have ever done anything politically effective in their fucking lives. Ever. It's pretty funny to me. Oh, let me, Alright, y'all. I need y'all to be out of my screen. And that's exactly where you were sitting. Right in the way of my screen. Pull my happy ass a little bit forward. I wish I had a real desk. Because I don't. Alright.
President Joe Biden issuing a statement as well, saying this sad chapter in our history has reminded us that democracy is fragile, that it must always be defended, that we must be ever vigilant, that
Biden. Depends on what kind of extremism you mean.
violence and extremism has no place in America. So, are we at the end of the road? Well, it seems like we are. There was a movement for censure, but Pelosi shot that down, calling censure a slap in the Constitution's face. Jed, Will, Pete?
Thanks, Griff.
Thanks so much, Griff.
Thank you, Griff.
You know, so we've been breaking this down for the last few hours, and we've talked about how that charge of incitement was problematic, very, very hard to prove. Perhaps a better charge would have been dereliction of duty. We've talked about so many components of this, but the reality is it's done. It's over. He was acquitted. You can argue that he was acquitted but not vindicated, fine. But the bottom line is, you know, we've talked also about division within the Republican Party. My hope is that this becomes a conversation again about policy. There was always division in the Republican Party. There was always division in the Democrat Party, but there was a time when that division was about the national debt, when that division was holding the GOP establishment accountable for not dealing with taxes or the debt or things of that magnitude, policy debates. That has vanished from the stage for some time now. It needs to come back because the national debt is still growing. People are still having trouble in their businesses. Their taxes are too high. These problems have not gone away. The focus has just shifted. So I'm hoping that somehow everyone can get on board and bring that focus back to really the issues that ultimately will help people.
Count me as skeptical. There was a time in television when people said, if it bleeds, it leads. You know what has led for going on more than 4 years? It's Donald Trump.
No, he hasn't led. I mean, led us backwards. We backslid into almost a fascist state, and that's terrible. We've been pretty close to that for a while, though. Let's be completely honest here. Trump did not bring fascism to America. That's not at all what happened. We've been sitting there. Hey, Ian, how's it going, my friend? Oh yeah, of course he's gonna get away with it. Like that's pretty obvious. The senators are a bunch of fucking cowards, and I hate them. But yeah, no, Trump did not bring fascism to America. He just was the only one who was bold enough and also stupid enough to try and just bring it from the backside of the country, trying to weasel its way up to power, to just dragging it in through the front fucking door. Good thing it got stuck. We were real close, super close to having a fascist takeover. Hey, Voldemort shampoo. Yeah, it does kind of feel like the OJ trial. Voldemort shampoo, let me get this correct. Are you that short artist, my Twitter friend?
He's been a boon to television, to liberal networks that don't want to let go of Donald Trump. Believe it or not, their addiction to him is deep. It has been a boon to Democratic politicians. They believe talking about Donald Trump has been a win.
Oh, and how's the audio mixing on this? Is the video really loud? Am I too quiet? Am I too loud? Can I get a little bit of feedback on that, please?
For them. And that brings us to this.
Hey, Jaden. How's it going, my friend?
Impeachment trial. It was all about trial by TV, trial by social media post, trial by video clip, trial by emotion. I said it's about two things this morning, standard and purpose. There was no standard to convict Donald Trump. What was it? Was he guilty beyond a reasonable doubt? Was it more likely than not? Against what charge? Inciting an insurrection? It was never a standard set, so there could never be guilt established. What more? The purpose. Impeachment was not the vehicle if you want to hold Donald Trump accountable for something. That's to remove a sitting politician from office. Mitch McConnell said there are other mechanisms for a private citizen. I'm also skeptical that Donald Trump is guilty of anything in the criminal or civil courts. What this ultimately comes down to is this is a political process, and if there are people out there, everyone believes what happened on January 6th was terrible. But if there are people that are out there that believe Donald Trump is responsible, the accountability mechanism is the ballot box. They can choose not to vote for him in the future. And Pete, that brings us to the point you've made several times this morning. There will be a divide in the Republican Party when it comes to that mechanism for holding Donald Trump accountable. Will they support him going forward?
Yeah, it was all about politics from the beginning. The rush in the House first and the Senate is the reason why there was that wee bit of uncertainty yesterday when it was unclear whether they would call witnesses or not for a couple of hours, and then a deal was cut. And then they finished it off because it was a snap impeachment. It was for a former president, which the Constitution, as many believe, does not allow. And with the speech that Mitch McConnell gave, while not the beginning of the divide, indicative of it. This is a minority leader who took to the podium and said, I'm going to vote to acquit based on.
All right, thanks for the feedback on that. Yeah, I've got a new setup. I've got this new microphone. Ian, when you were last hearing me, I was using a lapel mic that I had to try and figure out how to get all the buzz and stuff off of. And so I was trying a lot. And now I've got a blue microphone, and I've got this software, which allows me to run everything in and control it. And since I just figured out this side of things, I was wanting to make sure everything was good. These people are incredibly stupid. Oh my god. Trump's lawyer was completely shit, and the only reason that he got acquitted, I don't even think we need to finish this little bit. The only reason Trump got acquitted was simply because Republican senators are fucking cowards, and the House impeachment managers were fairly weak, I'm not gonna lie. Yep, Senate acquits Trump. even though they just voted for witnesses. And while this is going on, I have to argue with somebody on Twitter about why saying Stalin did bad things overall isn't like some crime. Yeah, I didn't expect a whole lot. I really don't need much from Fox. I usually go over people that are really bad. Like, for example, if I just type in first thing that pops up, type in B, and this is the first thing that pops up. Right, it's a Valentine's Day card. And then, yeah, it was this shit. Yeah, it was a very good choice, in my opinion. Jaden? It was probably the best thing that they could have done. Now, they should have been more aggressive with the impeachment, is what brought in more things than just the incitement. They have so much more evidence. They tried to focus on just the January 6th speech, but what they could have done, and what would have been honestly a much better strategy, in my opinion, would have been to bring up all of the different things that that Donald Trump has said and implied about violence against political opponents over the course of his presidency. And been like, yes, he's been leading up to this. He's been planting seeds that if he ever loses an election, it's going to have been fraudulent, and that the Democrats would have rigged it, and that we have to fight to maintain having him in power, is essentially. There's so much more that they could have done, but they're fucking feckless cowards. Democrats are awful. And yeah, I go over some Ben Shapiro stuff occasionally. As a matter of fact, a little bit. One of my most watched videos recently, now my most watched video was an old Destiny 2 one, but if you look right here, during the vice presidential debate, I did a stream on Twitch where I covered it, and then I clipped out the segment after the debate where I covered Ben Shapiro going over something about said debate, I'm pretty sure. And then I posted it here, and it has 379 views. But most of it is brigaded by Ben Shapiro fans who were watching like 2 or 3 seconds and then saying this is a terrible video, don't watch. But at least they give me some watch time, they give me views, and they put comments so that it gets brought up more frequently. So, you know, that's good. Yeah, they 100% could have brought more evidence. They failed miserably with this. But at the same time, hell, I would forgive them for bungling a second impeachment if they had brought a standalone $15 an hour minimum wage bill, if they had put forth at minimum $2,000 checks for COVID relief, minimum. Personally, because they still had 1.6 trillion left over from the first package that hadn't been allocated. Now, let's go with this quick. So we've got 1,600,000,000,000, that's million, 100,000, million, billion, trillion. And then you divide that by 195 million, roughly. Oh, what's that? $8,200 that they could give to every single working adult. $8,200 on top of the 2,000 more that they could give. I wonder why they haven't done that. Given everybody 8,000 fucking dollars. That's almost half my year's wages. I'd be fine. Because right now I am not. I got this computer put together for like $400. And partly because I didn't have to buy a case, I didn't have to buy a couple of parts and stuff because friends of mine had them laying around. I could actually have a decent PC right now if people had, you know, done their job. Of course they piss and moan over $600. half of the people that are trying to pass this legislation don't even partially understand the cost of living for somebody that is a worker. Bernie's the only motherfucker in the Senate who understands. And then you've got, I think, maybe 15 people in the House that actually understand what people in our position as regular workers are going through. It's fucking ridiculous. Now, I will say, because I am a pretty big fan of a lot of different lefties, yeah, they'd piss and moan over $50. They'd piss and moan over trying to get $1 to each person in this country. Oh, I voted for Bernie in the primaries, but he wasn't available in the general. So I had to vote for Biden, because in my state, they didn't even have a Green Party nominee on the ticket. Not at all. You could not vote for a Green Party in Oklahoma. You had Democrat, you had Republican. There was no Green. Same thing in Wisconsin, although in Wisconsin, there was a lawsuit that forced them off the ballot. In Oklahoma, they just never put them on. We also don't have write-in slots in Oklahoma. No, yeah, so I am a big fan of some lefties and even some progressive liberals. Oh, it doesn't surprise me when you have Obama calling and interfering with the election process by, talking to like Buttigieg and shit. There's a whole bunch that went on behind the scenes with the DNC and Obama and stuff that just fucked Bernie out of all of his chances. And then he comes forward. No, sadly, we couldn't have voted for Kanye West here, Ian. At least he wasn't on my ballot in my district. He wasn't there. But, it's fucking awful. But yeah, I'm a big fan of some lefties and even some liberals. I know. I'm gonna get fucking martyred for liking some liberals. But, I don't think Kyle's all that bad. I disagree with some of his stuff. Like his free speech absolutism, even he has exceptions about free speech, so he's not as free speech absolutist. And I think he's a bit reductive on some of his economic takes, but overall, he's a pretty good dude. I think his heart's in the right place, and I think he's pretty goddamn smart. Really? They had Kanye on yours? No, on mine, we only had Donald Trump or Joe Biden. That was it. And see, that comes down to districts at that point, because Ian lives further north in the same state, in the same city as I do. Oh, wow, that's terrible. But yeah, because I'm a fan of some of these other guys, like a lefty that I'm a huge fan of is Vosh. I really am. I like Vosh. I like Hassan. And then there's somebody who doesn't like either of them, calls Vosh a liberal all the time. Actually, it's this guy right here, the progressive martial artist. I've met Nick. He's a good dude. Like in heart, I think he gets emotionally ridden on some things more than letting logic take over and analyze a situation. But yeah, by 25. But overall, I think he's a good dude. I think he's got some bad takes, like he's probably shitting all over the $15 an hour minimum wage because he doesn't understand basic economics and the disemployment effect and shit like that. That's a thing. He was also a fan of the force the vote. I'm not. I think force the vote was a dumb strategy, as I've explained before, and I can explain again if I have to. Oh, you're still further north than I am. I am in the house that Sam used to live in with Oda. That is my house now. They no longer live here. Uh-huh, I agree. That's also why I don't like the USSR. I've been debating a dipshit constantly on whose videos, Ian? Vosh? Because Vosh is big for me. Or are you talking about progressive MMA? Because, yeah, progressive MMA is fairly hit or miss, I think. But that's just me. I'm not gonna, like, throw out everything he has to say because he has a completely different perspective than I do. I mean, he's a black communist. I'm gonna take into account some of the stuff he says. No, I mean, they moved it over to where Sam's mom lives because Sam's sister is no longer around, and so she needed help watching her grandson, and so Sam and Oda moved over there to help out with that and to help maintain the house. It's been a crazy couple of years. Now, because I am a tobacco addict, I feel like I do want to go smoke. So I'm going to show you one of the funniest things I have ever seen in my entire life. And then I will hit over to a song, if you guys don't mind, because I do need to take a quick break. I've been sitting here for like 45 minutes before I ever started this, trying to get everything set up, choosing the videos at the beginning that I went through and getting the stream set up with tags and everything. It's a process. So I'm going to play this, and then I want to go and so I'm going to go and smoke with that, and then I'm going to play a Be Right Back screen with a original song from my band. And by song, I mean a improv jam that we did and I liked, so I went ahead and downloaded it. So let's get this started. I'm gonna mute my microphone.
Pakistani officials are expressing outrage following what many in the international community are calling the brutal and unjustified use of Hillary Clinton against their nation. Secretary of State Clinton hit Islamabad at approximately 9 a.m. yesterday as most civilians were starting their workday or attending morning prayers. Just hours after Clinton arrived, the UN released a statement condemning the United States, saying, quote, under no circumstances is there ever a justification for the preemptive deployment of Hillary Clinton anywhere by any country. Joining us now is Pakistan's ambassador to the United States, Hassam Amdiri. Thank you for being here, Mr. Ambassador. Preliminary figures we have here showing over 500 civilians suffered the full force of Mrs. Clinton, and over 1,000 more may have suffered some exposure to her inflexible hair and pseudo-folksy hand gestures.
It's horrible. Innocent women and even children had to endure her stiffly rehearsed stories about farmers she met who inspired her. She was even sent into a hospital.
That's awful.
Mr. Obama clearly regards our people as beneath human dignity to have unleashed such a woman upon us.
The Red Cross has set up camps just across the Afghan border for the tens of thousands of refugees who fled their homes to avoid Mrs. Clinton.
They
Is
were
that
the
right?
lucky ones. Many more were trapped inside the Clintonized area and could not escape her clumsy attempts to relate to them.
So people were caught completely unaware
I'm afraid so. The Hillary Clinton warning sirens sounded just a few minutes before she hit. It was too late for most people. They had to endure her cacophonous fake laughter.
Sir, I'm just getting word that the White House has released the following statement We reserve the right to use Hillary Clinton in situations where all other options have failed. Mr. Ambassador, this sounds like a threatening tone.
It is horrible. The world must unite against this act of naked aggression. Let 1,000 Hillary Clintons rain down upon those responsible for this.
All right, Mr. Amdiri, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Intelligence reports have indicated that Pakistan is developing its own Hillary Clinton and that a Nida Alvi, a stiff, humorless provincial representative, could be ready to use against a major U.S. city as soon as 2011. Moving on, medical researchers are close to finding another cure for erectile dysfunction.
In the United States, the Supreme Court is the highest court, given the final say on what laws really mean, and if they're cool with the
All right. Yeah, if you're smoking, that's perfectly fine. You can just hang out in the general. Hey, how's it going? All right, so we got that going on. I'm gonna go ahead and put myself in the appropriate channel. I don't smoke tobacco inside my house, but I do have a medical card, so I do smoke joints while I stream. Just so you know. And I got myself
Howdy.
some. Hey, how's it going?
It's going. Just sitting here at the house. Work is closed today, so.
Alright. Yeah, I've got I'm supposed to have the other guy, Jade. He's supposed to jump in, and we're gonna have a discussion on some lefty strategy and politics and stuff like that.
There we go.
But I'm also gonna play some Galciv while I do it.
I had to close out your stream or whatever because it was echoing.
Yeah, that happens. Does anybody actually have it open? Is it echoing on my end?
It's not echoing on your end, which is good.
That's what I was hoping for. And as long as you're getting picked up, as a matter of fact, give me 1 second. Alright, go ahead and say something.
Something.
Okay, cool. You're getting picked up. I can tell by
Okay.
these. So as long as everything's going through the stream,
Yeah.
I think we're good.
Gotcha.
I think I'm gonna get absolutely dominated because I forgot where I even was. Alright. They're trying to destroy me, and that's it?
I gotta say, you were talking about your microphone. I have to say, I have an affinity. I have an affinity for blue microphones because they really are good quality microphones.
Yeah, and I'm just using a blue Snowball Ice. It's the cheapest one of the microphones of theirs I could get.
I've got one of those. Yeah.
I really do like
They work.
If I could
Omnidirectional. Great.
Yeah, if I got the Yeti, it'd be better, but that was like $160, and this thing was $60. So.
Yep. Yeah, I know. Like used, they're still running over $100.
Yeah. Oda actually got a Blue Yeti 1 year for podcasting. And he does magic streams on Twitch now. I think. So we've got everybody getting in on it. I think I'm just gonna get absolutely decimated.
Yep. It's kind of funny. Up until I don't know, like a month ago, I didn't really get what the hell Discord was. But then I had a bunch of people who play like Magic Gathering with me over Discord, and I was like, oh, okay. So I figured out how to use it, sort of.
Yeah, it's pretty easy. I've actually had to go a lot more in depth to get. Okay, so when I first started streaming,
it's fun times.
I can actually just do this. Oh, chat. Oh wait, I can't do it that way. So I have a bunch of let's see, I've got this Gamecaster here, which is another streaming thing. I've got Twitch Studio, which is a streaming thing. I've got this XSplit Broadcaster, which is a streaming thing, because I couldn't figure out how to use the one that I'm currently on, which is Streamlabs. Well, it turns out that I had to figure out how to use this program to make sure everything got picked up and transferred properly into Streamlabs.
Gotcha.
My stream is experiencing issues. I think that's because of the game. You know what? It's irrelevant. Fuck off, game. Yes. I can't have the stream experiencing issues like that.
I did the smart things. I've got Discord running on my phone, and then I'm watching you your screen on YouTube on the computer.
Yeah, I can't run it on my phone and have it get picked up, sadly. But they did just update Discord to take the processor usage down by half.
Yeah, I've noticed that it doesn't make other things as laggy.
Yeah, like for example, I've got without the game running, it's 60 to 79%. I guess it goes down to 48 is the lowest I've seen it. And what I'm running is an AM3 Plus motherboard with a AM3 970 chipset processor. So my motherboard and processor came out in 2011.
Gotcha. It's an old gaming PC. That's basically what it is.
Yeah, it could run World of Warcraft back when it was under Ice Crown Citadel, but it can't run much more than that. I mean, I can play Destiny 2 on the lowest graphics and I still get some lag as long as I don't have any program open other than this, which is if I turn remove noise, the microphone sounds way worse. Like, for example, you can hear that, and that's just really bad.
I gotcha.
And this makes it sound like this. Because what it's picking up, that wind noise in the back, is just the fan for my PC.
Oh, gotcha.
And Discord has this program built in. That's what this...
cool.
Yeah, that's what this here is. It's noise suppression powered by Crisp. Hey, how's it going? Are you ready to jump on over, Jaden? Actually, I'm just going to drag you in.
I found a box of Zendikar Rising that I was a pre-release box I bought before I moved. But then everything went to hell. I forgot I even had it. So today I've been going through the six acts and just sorting them.
I think I can run Magic and all of this stuff because Arena doesn't take as much.
Well, have you ever? Do you know Untapped.in?
Not really.
You go to that website. You can play Magic for free, and it'll run on a potato.
Oh, I just play on Arena.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've got an Arena account and everything. I have their standard. So I want to see if this. Wait, hold on. Alt tab over to here. Streamer mode.
Now I can hear you.
Okay, let me. Oh, did it completely cut out?
Just a few seconds. It was just blank, and then it came back in. I think it was switching over when you opened Arena. I've noticed it'll do that. It'll fuck with your sound settings for a second. I haven't messed a lot with Arena, although I have a couple of very basic standard decks. That's about it. I don't usually have the time to grind on Arena to get cards. I don't really spend a lot of money on Arena. Although I did download it on my phone, so now I can play Arena on my phone. I got a bunch of these double-sided cards out of this Zendikar pack, and it's actually pretty cool.
How's it going, Jaden? going to turn you all the way up, and I'm actually going to turn Ian down because he is very loud in my ear. I can kind of hear you.
So what kind of decks do you have? Do you mainly just play standard right now?
Currently, yeah. I used to play a lot of historic, but this deck doesn't work in historic, although my favorite one does.
Gotcha.
But hey, Jaden. Can you how you doing?
Can y'all hear me all right?
Yeah.
Cool.
So we were talking
What were you?
We were talking on Twitter earlier and yesterday, and more publicly, I will apologize for being a jackass. But
that's fine. I accept your apology.
So we were talking about a bunch of different things,
Yeah,
really.
Marxism and communism mainly, I guess.
Yeah. So I think we got to a point where we kind of generally agree on Marxism, like communism, not being able to be implemented like right away. I don't think that that's a thing. Personally, I do advocate for
that can only happen with like I don't know war probably honestly because I mean how do you just destroy the market right? Like if communism is based around the idea of not having money, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I'm not entirely sure how we could even implement that at this exact moment. And so, like, I believe that communism is the best path forward, specifically anarcho-communism, but I don't think that we could just go there right away. Even Marx wrote about how there's transitional phases, and so we would have to. I want to advocate for pragmatic policies that could move us in the right direction.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm not a communist, but I'm definitely like a socialist. So I would like to be one of those transitional stages, you know?
Well, goddamn, you're still a comrade.
Yeah.
I even consider left-leaning progressive liberals to be able to be comrades. You just have to know how to work with them on the right issues. I don't think fascists, and I don't think authoritarian communists, like the Stalin apologists, the tankies, they hate that term, but I don't consider them leftists.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you want to bring a leftist on your side, if you're a communist, it's as I said before, like on Twitter, it helps to meet them where they're at. So like I don't think generally the best approach is to be like, oh yeah, communism. It's it's about more sharing specific ideas rather than naming the political party because I think that it has some prejudices.
Yeah,
and so it's hard to distinguish, the ideas between what about the gulags and shit like that, you know.
Yeah, and I'm not
which came in our argument.
Now, I have posted some gulag memes before, but I'm not a fan of gulags.
I think
the memes are funny.
Not. But not best approach. Yeah.
No, definitely not. I try not to post those like publicly to people. I post those in the lefty circle jerk kind of communities. That's where you kind of keep that.
Like as an inside joke, I guess.
Yeah. No, if you want to be like pragmatic, which I do, I want to be politically effective. I want to approach things in a different manner than I do when I'm talking to like the online leftists, the people who don't think about how to actually implement things in the current political climate. They mostly just read like a lot of theory and then think that you can just talk about socialism.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But so like my current approach, the way that I want to actually go about it, that's what the way that this channel is made for, is to talk about certain policies like when the $15 an hour minimum wage thing was put into the COVID thing. I knew that wasn't going to pass. It was a good thing that they slipped it in to see who would bring it up and talk about voting against it, so that you could kind of get those names. It's similar to the force the vote strategy, but it's the fucking president doing it, the guy with the most political capital, as opposed to a junior congresswoman.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
It was a ballsy move. It was a ballsy move, man. You know. I'm sure he caught a lot of heat for that.
I mean, yeah. I mean, you gain a lot of attention by doing shit like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, he's going to catch a lot of political heat for it, but he's the president. The opposition is always going to throw a lot of political heat to him. But what you don't need is the allies you're trying to build within Congress as a junior congresswoman to be burned by you trying this force the vote strategy. I think that was a very bad thing. We already knew who was going to vote against Medicare for all. It wasn't the best move to try and do.
Yeah, it wasn't.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
What's up? Take it against the door. Yeah, go ahead. No, there's not a button for it. You just swipe up on this. Swipe all the way up. Like from the bottom, the very bottom down. Yep. And then scroll the other way. See camera up in the top. Because it needs to use my phone for stuff. His camera's garbage. Okay. So sorry, what were we talking about? Force the vote?
Something like that.
Okay, so we were in agreement on that. Oh, right, the approach. Sorry. I'm actually fairly high right now.
Can't sing.
So all right, comrades.
You still honest. That's cool.
So my generalized approach, with that force the vote, I recognized it was bad pragmatically, and it was just bad politically overall. It didn't accomplish anything. And after going over Jimmy Dore's history with that, I kind of recognized where that strategy developed, and that was all spite. So, you kind of have to take an analytic approach, not just to society, but to also how you approach your political game. And I think that there's some big lefty leaning figures who don't do that. The $15 an hour minimum wage is a good example, because as soon as it was announced that they were pushing for a $15 an hour minimum wage, people like Jimmy Dore and, I hate to say it, but Breonna Joy Gray were pushing to say that it needs to be $25 an hour today. And there is this thing in baseline economics that it's called it's the disemployment effect. And that happens when the minimum wage rises above 60% of the median of the average income. So currently at $7.25, and so if you take that 60% number, is roughly $14.89 an hour. So $15 an hour is within the margin of error for that. And so that's where, it's right approaching that line where people would start actively getting laid off, and jobs would stop hiring. That's where things get really bad.
Yeah.
And so it's like sometimes you can, yes, allow access to all photos. But sometimes you can figure out where people are not being honest or analytical in their approach just by looking at basic things in the field that they're talking about, whether it be economics or political science, shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to advocate for people to actually do that and show people how doing that actively is better than just coming up with what sounds like a good idea on paper and then throwing it out there.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah. This is something that like sort of came up in our argument on Twitter also.
Mm-hmm.
You know how there's these really good political ideas, but people do not actually take steps and get information or whatever to actually make those ideas sort of transfer them, you know, in the actual political sort of climate. And instead of just, making a lot of noise, basically, but never actually taking an action or to take a stand for something.
Yes, that is something that, I mean, I was trying to make a run for my local Congress in the last election cycle we had, but the election board fucked me over because this is a far red state. Like, it's super red. And so, yeah, somebody who all they had to do is I went in and tried to register. They looked up my name on Facebook and saw communist in my bio and went, oh, let's slow play his registration. And then it'll be past the deadline and then he can't run. But there is an issue with people not being able to, or not actively putting forth anything towards politics. That's why I had initially brought up, like, Vosh, is because he had a discussion with Destiny, who is currently out doing canvassing. He did it for the Senate, and he's doing it for the mayorship in Georgia. And he's a streamer on Twitch. That's what he does. And so he's one of the only people who's actively gone out and done this. And Vosh mentioned he's looking into starting a PAC for like grassroots collections for lefty candidates, especially to be able to contest in like Republican-run areas, red states and stuff. So there's a lot that is starting to be done, but you're absolutely right that there's a kind of a problem with the online left not putting anything into actual practice.
Yeah. I think especially without like really aggressive the right is, and it's sort of recruiting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the left. It needs to catch up, because these people are really they really, even though they believe very backwards things, they really put it into practice. You know, and they are really informed, and even though their sources come from right wing places. You know, they really put those into action, and that makes them believe things even more.
There's certain ways I think that there's different ways to approach different kinds of different groups, and even like subgroups. Like conservatives, a lot of them are misguided. They only get fed things like Fox News and Breitbart bullshit.
Yeah.
Ben Shapiro and stuff. They're in that echo chamber. And in some circumstances, the only way to break through it is to be aggressive with an individual within that group while there's an audience watching, because if you make them look foolish, then because of the way that like conservative minds generally seem to work, to a leader figure, And if you make their leader figure look foolish, they'll start to question themselves. And as soon as introspection starts, that's when they start to change their ideas. That's when they go, wait, am I actually wrong? And so bullying occasionally can work, but it does need to be applied appropriately.
Bullying works. No, yeah, I see what you mean, but I find usually that when like debating, I debate a lot of shit on Twitter, for example. Most of them are right wing, and most of them are transphobes, and all their reasons they're like highly unscientific, false news, and but they still they bring forth those ideas so aggressively. And so, for example, in the case of Ben Shapiro, even though I don't know if you've ever seen the debate with Blair White.
But, no, he never debates Blair White.
Oh yeah, he debated Blair White once. But it was a short debate. And it was about one other debate they did about pronouns. I do not remember who it was. The whole thing that pronouns, the nature of pronouns is chromosomes or whatever bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, the whole debate Blair won because she had much stronger points. I hate to admit it because I dislike Blair. But like she did, and in the end he just dismissed it. So they make it seem like their argument won regardless of whether it was actually that way. So it's very hard to debate a right-wing person because of that. Because they're so convinced in their false news that nothing you tell them will convince them, no matter how much information you provide.
And see, normally, like, it seems that way, but they're stubborn. All you have to do is get them to question their worldview, which is harder than it sounds. But I've actually been able to get some people to do it, and it's fairly effective. You just have to find the right approach with the right kind of person. If being kind and showing them just overwhelming love, like Marianne Williamson style shit, works for that, then you do that. Appealing to their religion and finding ways to justify your argument through their religion, because they don't argue from facts, they only argue from feelings.
Oh yeah,
they talk about facts versus feelings.
The religion one. Yeah.
It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. It should never permeate in politics. Like religion needs to stay far away from politics. It inebriates somebody's mind, to question somebody's beliefs that way. Like too much, and it needs to be kept out.
Yeah, see, generally, I don't think you should allow religion to influence your politics. I do think that if you're not a politician and you're a, like what I'm doing, covering news and being a political commentator and trying to help educate people, using any level of rhetoric, any kind that you can to appeal to a different group is perfectly viable. But that's not while you're a politician. If you're a politician, you should not bring up religion in general. I mean, if somebody asks you if you're religious, you shouldn't, shy away from it. I think it's fine if you are religious, just so long as you're not letting it influence, a majority of your policy decisions. Because that just historically turns out not good.
Yeah, very poorly.
Good. Okay, so let's get a grade. I decided to start a game. I'm playing some Magic. But, what do you guys think is do you think it's a good approach to put a standalone $15 an hour minimum wage on the table, as it sat in the COVID relief bill, but just strip it from the COVID relief bill and put it forward solely as its own bill? I'll let Ian start with this one.
I think it's something that would be very easy for politicians and other people to make it an issue other than what it is. Because the whole $15 minimum wage and it's not really about like it's not about it about poor people, and that's what they try and make it. They're like, oh well, this is gonna affect Medicare and Medicaid and all these people, and it's not. If you give people more money, people like to spend money. People will inject that money right back into the economy. And it will go to different places. It's not necessarily a universally good thing. Because people will start spending money on things they don't really need to spend money on. But it's also not the worst thing in the world either.
Yeah. I think it's technically a good thing to just generally raise minimum wage as it is. I think it needs to be done properly though. And I wonder if the $15 is proper, because as you said before, it raises the chances of people are going to go into layoff. So
it will harm. I feel it will harm some smaller businesses.
Yeah.
If they could afford a lot of their workers better, many of them just would. If they could afford to pay their workers, and a lot of them are like small businesses. Like say it's like a small cleaning business. Maybe they'll pay their workers like $10 an hour, which is better than minimum wage, right? But if they could afford to pay them $15 an hour, they might actually do that. Especially if it's small business. But being forced by the government. Being forced by a law change to pay out $15 an hour, they would have it causes a ripple effect. Say okay, and I'll use the same small cleaning business as an example. If they immediately bump everyone up to $15 an hour from $10 an hour, where they get that money. So either if they have enough profit, it will eat up more of the profits, meaning the business will not actually be making more money, maybe make less money, and so it'll be a less profitable business. Which means that if they have to get business loans or anything like that, they won't be able to. The other outcome is they would have to raise prices on their basically they'd have to raise the prices on their services to the consumer. Just so that they can pay the $15 minimum wage. And if it's a business like a cleaning business, people only want to pay so much for certain things. Like in their head, most people they kind of have a cap. Like, they're like, I'm not gonna, it's like okay, I'll pay you guys. You're gonna be here for 3 hours. I'll pay you guys $100 or something for two or three guys to clean up a place. And I'm just using this as an example. I know. I'm sure that the economics are all wrong, but if you immediately have to bump that up 1.5 times, you go okay. If it's if it's normally $50, all of a sudden, oh, I have to charge $75 for the same job I just had. They just did like a week ago, and I have to explain to the person, oh well, I have to charge you $75 now. That's it's a form of artificial inflation. It's not real inflation. The cost of goods and services didn't actually go up. It's the cost of the workers went up.
Okay.
And
now,
for the business,
what if I told you that, for one, I can use a real life example here. McDonald's, $7.25 an hour minimum wage. Cost of a Big Mac is $4.89. In Denmark, minimum wage at McDonald's is $25 an hour. Cost of a Big Mac, $5.03.
Yep. The real awful thing about that is that to set that up where you can afford to pay someone that amount and charge that amount for the goods or services that you're providing, everything has to change along the supply chain. The amount you're paying for materials has to change.
No.
Everything has to adjust.
Not necessarily. There is several examples that of this happening. For one, when they instituted the minimum wage, there was actually a mass hiring of people, and it went from no minimum wage, and they just paid people pretty much literal starvation wages, to having to pay somebody a living wage, and that got more people into homes, into jobs, things like that. That's just the first historic example. Then there's the current, McDonald's versus U.S. prices and stuff like that. Nothing's really changed for them. And then with the way that the $15 an hour minimum wage bill has been put into the COVID relief thing, it's not a sudden increase. It doesn't go just from $7.25 to $15. It goes from $7.25 to $9.50 to $11 to $13.75 to $15. By 2025,
that makes more sense. That makes more sense. But if it were a jump from $7.25 to $15 immediately, that would cause all kinds of.
Yeah, that would cause the disemployment effect all at once.
I think disemployment is like the main factor here, because when I think about minimum wage, I think about the workers, right? So I'm thinking, is this decision going to affect the small businesses and by ripple effect the workers?
Yeah, and there would be a subsidy for small businesses.
I think in this case it's too big a raise, so it would not benefit them. I think they should do a lower one, maybe like I don't know, even say 13 or 12.65, for example. You find me like agreeing with this, because I think it's probably going to benefit them. Well, giving such a...
Sorry, go ahead.
Go.
The disemployment effect, because when they raise it up to say 11.25, it's going to, instead of keeping the disemployment rate at where it is, because it's going to take a few years for it to raise up to 15, that disemployment number is going to raise with each year that it increases. So it's not as big of a issue. because of the increasing the rate over time. If they did it all at once, then yes, it would be a huge issue. There'd be people getting laid off, jobs wouldn't be hiring, small businesses would be affected. But with the way that they worded it in the bill, there's supposed to be like subsidies shifted from one industry to another, to these smaller businesses, so that they can actually support the workers being able to handle this burden and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I'm in favor of it. I think that we could actually get it up to $20 an hour by 2030 at the latest, if we did it right. Now, I could be wrong about that.
I think my biggest concern is like how is COVID going to affect everything economically? Like can we actually do that with the state that we're in right now economically?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it wouldn't take all that much money in subsidies to be able to do it, and having it tied to the median wage is really good, because it would keep cost of living tied to a certain proportion of your wages. So if inflation raises to a certain point, your wages would automatically have to rise to meet it at a certain point. Same thing where if they try and if they were going to try and suddenly bump up prices to try and compensate for lost profits, your wages would automatically have to raise to meet that differential. It doesn't affect corporate started. Yeah, I think I'm getting picked up by Jaden.
Perhaps. I mean,
let me lean it back.
Try.
Alright, if I lean back, I think we're okay. But yeah, with the way that the bill is actually worded, it would direct subsidies to small businesses to handle that kind of increase. And I mean, I work at a very small business. I have total, there's my boss, his wife, our shop manager, and then 3 drivers. And that's it.
Yeah.
But I know that there's a really good profit margin. Even right now, under COVID, we deliver to restaurants. The thing that's supposed to be getting hit the hardest. And now in California and stuff, they're getting hit really hard. I can't even deny that. California, New York, big cities where a majority of people are living, they're getting it pretty bad. But in Oklahoma, where we have some pretty lax COVID restrictions, which sucks, restaurants are doing not as good as they used to, but still not bad. That's a bit of anecdotal evidence, but I think
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I think that if it's done in the way that it was put up in that legislation, that it would actively be pretty beneficial to workers. That's why I've seen quite a few people talking about how it's good. The people who criticize the bill haven't talked about how it's going to cause disemployment or anything. The general people, except for the Republican Party, but they always talk about that if you talk about raising minimum wage at all. It's actually been people, like I mentioned before, with the Jimmy Dores and stuff, who are it doesn't go far enough. It needs to give, 25 something dollars an hour or whatever. And now I will agree, it doesn't quite go far enough in my opinion. But that's a whole different matter. I think that where it sits right now, it's fine. By go far enough, I think they could have written in things like it can't be undone, the increase, the way it's tied to median. It just can't be overwritten. Just no. And maybe extend its duration to where by 2028 we're at $17 an hour, $18 an hour, somewhere around there. I think we could accomplish that. But the whole $25 an hour thing they're pushing for by, tomorrow, not feasible.
No, definitely not that. I think with raising it even further, I think there would need to be another just like bill. You know why? Because just to consider like again if it is the right option. I think pushing for that much it's a bit risky. Because like also because pushing for that much might cause a lot of backlash, definitely. I think from the right wing. So I think it's pushing for a little bit more. It's in a little bit more discreet way. I think that's the best way to go. And I think 15 is like good. Like it's pretty high. You know.
Yeah, I mean it's solid for now. I'm not gonna say no to a $15 an hour minimum wage.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
I'm just personally thinking of how we could potentially get some more provisions added in, such as the, tying it to where it can't be overturned, stuff like that.
Yeah, that I definitely agree with. That should have been there. You know.
Yeah, it should have been a thing from the start.
Yeah,
because Democrats are feckless cowards a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And that's specifically about, elected Democrats.
Oh yeah. They're very like. I almost want to say center-leaning. The ones that do get elected.
Center-leaners are they're an interesting group. I'll give them that. I have some issues with that.
From the heavens,
In the sense that they're not really pushing for leftist ideals. Most of the time, it's like how can I explain it? It's like to make the right wing happy, pretty much. You know what I mean? To cause the least amount of trouble and like political disparity. It almost feels like that.
They're sad. Like, conservatism, I feel, is kind of a death cult.
Yeah.
They hate you and they want you to die. Because you're poor.
Yeah.
But I do also think we can appeal to some of them and bring them a little closer to where we should be. You just have to figure out the tactic.
Definitely. I think it's really important to. It's strange to even like say it, but to appeal to leftists in leftist matters because as we said before, they're not really interested. They don't really push the ideas that they preach, and that's. With
that is a big problem with the online left. I 100% agree with you on that. Even bigger problem, in my opinion, is God. is when the leftists, especially the online ones, just dismiss liberals out of hand. They're just like, nope, you're a liberal, fuck off. Like, what are you doing? Those are the people you're most likely to get along with.
Yeah, there's this disparity between left people and other leftist people. You know what I mean?
Oh,
and
lefties
it's
are
like,
so...
no, you're a communist. You're whatever. You're a liberal. And it's like guys, like right people do not care if one is like conservative, one is like kind of conservative, one is a full Nazi. Like they just
They don't care.
right, you know?
They're like, oh, you hate black people and want low taxes and don't like the leftists? Okay, well, you're a fucking friend.
I have a problem with the Jews. Whatever. You know,
you don't want to hold the Jews, but I do. But you don't like taxes, and you also don't like black people. Okay, we're friends. And lefties are just like, you disagree with Lenin's vanguardism? You're a traitor to the people. You're a liberal. I still want to abolish the commodity form, and I want workers to own the means of production. What the fuck do you want from me?
Everything.
Yeah.
You don't think exactly as I do, so you must die. It's like, oh god.
You're a commie.
I legitimately had somebody the other day who was like, I said something that was critical of Lenin, even though I read some Lenin.
You're a Lenin apologist.
No, the person was like, critical on Lenin, and they were like, you're literally questioning Lenin right now? Not a good look. And I'm like, oh my fucking god. Like, I'm done with you idiots.
I will say this, people are stupid.
They really are.
My God, I have the news going in the background, and they got some idiots hanging out in Northwest Reno MacArthur here, and yeah, they're just like hanging out, like trying like bike around, and there's earlier one woman was like jogging and shit, and I'm like, what's wrong with you? It's negative. The actual temperature right now is 4. It is 4 fucking degrees. Like it's not running temperature.
I see a lot of those people.
It's 4.
I am fearful for the people who want to go out running right now.
You should not go out running. Like, kids just...
Like, please talk to them. Doing that.
Oh yeah, and then like during COVID, just running with a face mask on. Like, what's with you? How do you?
You know, essentially pouring down snow.
Yeah, it's awful.
Yeah.
This state
guts.
has lost it. Not really. No. Well, yes, we did hit a point. We did have it at a point because we used to. Oklahoma has a history of being one of the most conservative states in the nation over the past like 60 years, but also of electing the most socialists to public office in history. We have 136 people that we elected.
Like African American socialists.
Yeah, we need
in yourself.
we need more.
I believe in you.
Alright, I get to finally start killing
That
these guys.
is really like mind-blowing to me.
Yeah, I don't
It's like
understand how that
socially.
Oh yeah. And yeah. And this was
Seriously, like
before. This was before. Oklahoma barely states like 1908, 1910.
Absolutely.
You don't understand.
My quest is not
Alright,
over until
5-color deck wins every
I will
time.
do my best to support you.
Back up to 20 life, opponent at -1, get wrecked. Yeah, I've been playing this game the entire time. Hopefully it hasn't messed with the stream.
It hasn't.
It has a small amount.
I do hear a beep, like a constant beep. Not constant, like it's interrupted, but it was like
That might be
rhythmical.
the app itself. Whenever I speak, does it do like a bleep kind of thing?
Try speaking.
Hello.
No.
Could only do it when I start speaking.
It's gone. It's gone now.
Okay, good. What the fuck is this? Okay. I need more stuff. 7,000 gold. Can I actually get into it? Draft. Quick draft. Call time quick draft. Yay. I need to do these. All right. So did you guys hear about the ICE detention or ICE deporting 72 people after Biden put a moratorium on it?
I did not.
That's not legal.
No, it's really not.
I will believe it isn't. Does not sound legal to me.
Yeah, he put a moratorium on deportations unless they were confirmed to have committed like terrorist activity or some shit. And they just went, nah, fuck that. We're gonna send 72 people, including 21 children, to Haiti, which is about to be engaged in a civil war.
For real?
Their president started ruling by executive order like a year ago, and his thing was supposed to run out, and he just decided he was going to stay and said he had another year, and now there's protests and stuff, and military was called in, and it's not good.
That is not good. Like at all.
No. Yeah. I mean, my honest opinion is that's bullshit. How is that allowed?
Well, because he feels like he can do whatever.
Yeah, I know, but like, that's crazy. Like, no.
Oh, there's now obvious civil unrest, and that's kind of a thing. So Biden needs to crack down. I said when I found this out, because I went ahead and covered it on stream, was that Biden needs to come in with you don't want to listen to my orders? Okay, well, you no longer have orders because you're no longer an organization, you're no longer an agency. Fuck off. Abolish DICE.
Well,
I do agree on abolishing it, but because it's really terrible.
just doing whatever the hell they want under Trump.
Yeah, well, ICE. We lived without ICE for so long. I don't think we need it.
Yeah, we don't. We don't need them, but you know. People will say.
Yeah, they'll be like, what about the terrorists? Well, you know, ICE isn't going to stop a terror threat from the air, so
and
we have border patrol already.
Every single, except for and I will say I'm going to say this outside of 9/11, which is controversial, and I'm going to steer clear of it on purpose. Outside of 9/11, every major terrorist attack on American soil was done by American citizens.
Yeah, unless you count the invasion by the French.
Not illegal immigrants, not some like they were American naturalized citizens. So, what kind of danger?
None. People already, I think, started recognizing that it's a load of bullshit. Ooh. I managed to get into a draft, y'all.
Oh, okay. Like I said, I have a few decks, but they're just very they're like the starter decks that I've just added a few cards to. So they're not great.
Yeah, and that it gets to be a little daunting starting to build up a collection in Arena, but once you have a decent little bit, it goes pretty quick.
Oh yeah. Well, I remember like Oda being like the king of fucking drafting.
Mm-hmm. Still is. He goes platinum. Almost every season.
Jeez fucking Christ.
He does it in standard as well. Unless standard's just a hellhole of a format to play. And then he just goes to historic, which is usually pretty fun.
Yeah. Right now, I'm going
through
through
a game and show you guys my
going through all the tutorial things to unlock all the decks.
I hated that. It was such a pain in the ass.
I never fully unlocked blue or white because I just got sick of it. I was like, because I was just grinding through them, you know. Like okay, yes, you don't have to tell me what to do. Just come on. I wish there was some way you could like. You could like test out or something. Like give me the full deck. Let me play against a real person. If I lose, fine. I'll go through the tutorial. But
yeah, I understand that one. Do you play Magic, Jaden?
No, I don't.
Do you play any like card games or video games or anything?
Not currently. Yeah. Because I don't play on PC. I can't get around the keyboard. It just does not do it for me. And currently I don't have PlayStation, so I haven't played in a while.
Do you not have a controller at all?
The thing is also my ex. I used to use her Steam account because I bought games up there, and technically I bought them, whatever. And she has changed password and everything, so I can't access Steam. So Yeah, I just it's whatever.
Oh shit. What do you do for fun to entertain yourself right now?
I watch films a lot. I'm an enthusiast.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I like usually I like to watch more like indie sort of films, but I also watch mainstream ones, you know.
Oh, okay.
I just like really like to analyze them.
Oh, so you're really into film analysis? Okay, that's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
also. I mean, I also wrote like a screenplay. Just because yeah, I mean I didn't like use it or anything. I just wrote it, but it's actually a screenplay that should be for my graphic novel. I'm an artist. That's why that sure. I'm also short.
All right. Yeah, that's how the
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I draw most of my inspiration from films, and that's sort of like how it started out. Yeah.
I need to actually draw my logo or get somebody to draw my logo. I might get.
Well, you could commission me.
Yeah,
Because
I've got my my eldest sibling is my is
Oh,
a
yeah.
trans woman who is an artist.
Oh really? That's
And,
cool.
you can find her on Twitch as well.
I will. Please tell me. My trans sister. I do want to know.
The Twitch name is Zerica_Fox.
Zerica?
I'll spell it in the general.
Yeah. Thanks.
There you go. And that is my sister's channel. She plays like Monster Hunter World, does art, plays Terraria, but a lot of the streams I've seen recently have been, drawing art. So I asked her to draw an anime style of me, because the artwork in the stream while I was playing the songs, anything that looked drawn was something that I did on this computer, and the one that's like laying in the grass kind of thing is the first one I've ever done on a computer, and then the other one is the second one I've ever done.
Mm-hmm. Do you draw like with a mouse?
I hadn't drawn for quite a while until I decided to do those, but I was like, I need to do thumbnails. Let me go ahead and sit down and spend like 5 hours doing these, and I'm still not super satisfied with them, but better than what I had, which was nothing.
That's me all the time.
Have
like
people who do
these.
their art are never satisfied with it.
Yeah. Go figure. It's really annoying. It's like as soon as I finish a piece, I just leave it there for a day, and then the next day I come onto it, and then something's off. I still like them, but I'm always like, I use the color too bright, like shit that nobody notices, you know? That color is like too saturated. My art career is over.
You're analyzing it as if an art critic is gonna go over it in depth or something.
Sorry, what?
It's like you're going over it as if an art critic was going over it in depth.
No, definitely not. It's more of like really well to learn art. You really have to pay attention to your mistakes. Because I learned it by myself. So I teach myself how to critique my own art. And I just when I see a mistake, I just see it instantly. Even like if that's why I don't like to watch a lot of animated movies because as soon as I see something that's off, it's like it ruins it for me. Especially nowadays with like bad CGI and bad animation. And it's like I cannot watch those because like that one move was off and it just killed it for me. And it's really weird, but I just
I mean, I can't necessarily blame you from an artist perspective. I'm a big fan of like watching anime, but I actually read more manga than I do watch anime. I just watch the shows for the show of like the emotional scenes and stuff. Like for example, in One Piece, the newest arc, they tied in some shit from like the past 5 arcs together in a way that just it literally made me cry. I was like, oh my god, that is so sad. And I didn't get that when I read it, but when I saw them animate it and saw the like reactions and stuff moving, I was like, that it just hit a different way.
I remember.
And I was a baby.
What?
And I was a big old baby about it. And I'm just sitting here crying in my room, just like.
I remember when I first watched Death Note, and then I read the manga, then I watched it again, and it's like I like the story a lot better, but seeing the like beautiful artwork of the manga, it's like this looks bad. And I thought it looked good before, and now I cannot watch my favorite show again without noticing that like the proportions are really off.
Yeah,
Sometimes.
I've noticed that a little bit. I have to push through that some on like Dragon Ball Super.
I can't watch that one. I've tried.
Now there's some really bad animations in it.
It's also the writing. It's just I watched the first two like Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. And like they were great, and Dragon Ball Super just does not cut it for me. It's just it feels like a different show. It feels like a parody.
Yeah,
it's almost GT level.
Almost.
I think I think
it doesn't feel it just doesn't.
Well, that's
in retrospect, GT is not that bad to me because I really hate Super. So it's like I used to hate GT, and I'm like, well, I've seen Super, and like, maybe it wasn't that bad.
I used to hate GT, and then I was like, well.
Okay, so I'll give you a tip on this one. Read Super. Do not watch it. Especially after
maybe I should do
that. What is it? After the first 2 arcs, which are the movies that they put out for them, it actually gets better. And where I'm at right now, it's actually fairly sick. The only problem I do have is because Super is slotted in between the killing of Boo and the final tournament in Dragon Ball Z. They don't give Goku any real character development, but they do give Gohan quite a bit.
Well, I feel like Gohan deserved character development because originally he was supposed Gohan was supposed to be the carrier of the show, but people like Goku so much that Toriyama changed his whole story because they liked Goku more.
Well,
it was supposed to be like
he had to come up with a bullshit reason to bring Goku back after the Frieza saga, because killing Frieza, or the when Namek exploded, that was originally supposed to be the end of Dragon Ball Z.
Mm-hmm.
He was going to end it all right there, but fans and his editors were like, nope, get back on it.
Bring back to life. They did so much too. They did it a lot. How many times has he died and brought to life? It's like
4 now.
At one point, the whole series was just about bring Goku back to life. Like, okay.
Hell, GT was only about turning Goku back into an adult body. He was still every bit as effective as a kid, but actually more because he had his tail, and he was more nimble.
Yeah.
But the entire series was about getting him to be an adult again.
Yeah, because it was almost like the whole premise of the whole series is kind of a joke. It's like really you turned him into a kid. That was the worst you could do.
Yeah.
I
That's
mean,
the worst you could think of.
I mean, killing clearly is not good enough. So.
Well, I don't think that the Dark Dragon could have killed Goku at that point. It took him becoming Omega Shenron before he could stand against Goku. But he, yeah, that was pretty much the whole premise. Was Goku got turned into a kid because Pilaf is dumb.
Evil or something at one point, and it was a whole
there's two dragons, right? And one is
like
evil, and
seven
the
evil
one
dragons.
is seven. I thought it was one.
No, there were 7 evil dragons.
I mean, it's a little bit more realistic. I'll give them that.
Yes, I meant the shadow dragons.
I got a computer player on Arena.
They always are. A's Shenron, Age Shenron, Oceanus Shenron, Naturon's Shenron, Nuova Shenron, Ace Shenron, and Sin Shenron, who becomes Omega Shenron after absorbing the other 6 Shadow Dragons' Dragon Balls.
This sounds very convoluted.
It was.
But you know what GT gave us? Mustache on the G.
That was a moment. That was my moment. Definitely.
I've watched too much DBZ abridged.
Oh my god, I love GT. I love it. I absolutely love that.
11 years ago, 12 years ago, you listen to it and you're like, that was kind of a yikesy joke, but there's some real hits in there. Hell, if it says anything,
just like the first couple of seasons. I mean, I like that better than I like the actual series.
Oh, the entire Frieza saga, I think they did a way better job with Frieza.
Oh yeah. And it was cut really well. It was edited really well. It's like just fucking cool.
Thank you for the subscription.
Frieza saga was like the best. I think it cannot be topped. But
No. Frieza's the best villain that they could come up
to
with.
me,
Cell was cool. I like Cell.
I think Frieza just as a villain. So first of all, I like queer villains. So to me, it's just perfect. But it was really well written. Like it was.
Well, you know the theory behind writing Frieza that Akira Toriyama used, right?
I'm sorry.
A person he could think of at the time, which was land sharks, who ruined the Japanese economy and the housing market. So
it was like Japanese barons, whatever.
So Frieza was modeled after literally the biggest kind of evil he could think of.
That's cool. I did not know that actually.
Frieza meant to be a character with no redeeming qualities, and that's what makes him such an effective villain.
Yeah, but I also think the way they sort of characterize him is like not too unlikable, honestly, because He's very powerful.
Yeah.
And you need to have a lot of character if you're really powerful villain. Like you need to write them in a very specific way if you're gonna have them be like incredibly powerful.
Yeah, like I think the
So I
entire
think the characterization really well.
Oh yeah. The way he was written is really what did it. Because he could have just been strong. Like, I have a lot of criticisms of Boo because Boo was very poorly
He
written.
was just strong.
He was just strong. That's it.
Yeah,
Strong and evil. That was everything. Cell, I did like a lot because he was very nuanced and he could be very likable and the way he approached situations. But Frieza just tops it all with that. He's always like very smug, but off-puttingly charming and polite.
Yeah, and it's got like style. I love the way the anime is fighting style.
Yeah.
Like it's his style, you know?
Yeah, so Frieza is, in my opinion, the best that Dragon Ball had to offer in terms of villains.
Yeah. Agreed.
Now, my favorite character overall, still Gohan.
Yeah.
Don't care. Still Gohan.
I like Vegeta.
Vegeta's pretty cool too.
Vegeta's cool shit. His whole character arc is like really good. I think.
Oh yeah.
For like a television show that was so drawn out.
I did lie earlier a bit when I said Gohan had the most character development in Super. It would have to be Vegeta from the course of like all the Dragon Ball.
Oh yeah, because he comes up and he's like this little asshole, you know. And then he's like the hero, you know.
Beerus shows up and hits Bulma, and he's just he freaks out and attacks somebody he knows could blow him to smithereens, no problem, to defend his woman. He's like, hey, don't hit her. I thought, I figured she could handle herself. She was walking up to talk to you. I'm not going to interfere with that, but you lay hands on her, now we got an issue. Because she can't stand up to you. She's a human and you're a god. I mean, come on. If you can kill me. So he really did change from arrogant asshole to caring about family.
Well, I feel he's still an arrogant asshole.
He still is an arrogant asshole, but now he's a good arrogant asshole, you know?
The intentions are different. He can't really help being arrogant because he's Vegeta, the Prince of all Saiyans. Come on.
Yeah.
He was written with a Napoleon complex. But he's actually the exact same height as Napoleon, because him and Vegeta are both 5'8", and Goku's just tall.
I mean, I clearly have some sort of connection to other short men, so might have been one of my reasons.
I'm 5'6", so I get it.
I'm 5'0". I'm 5'9", nothing.
I'm 5'4". Negative 5. I can't say anything. Dan knows.
You're big.
I'm too damn tall.
Because you're like what, 6'5", 6'6"?
Well, but if we get together, like I jump on his stairs, you're much taller than you.
Hey, if we lined up from Jaden to Ian, everybody that I know, we would have the AT&T raising the bars thing.
I love this. You go into the it's one of those training matches, and it goes, oh, this opponent has creatures with reach, so they can block your flyers. And this whole match, they've played one creature with reach.
Yeah, and they're trying to tell you what the thing is, but the issue is this game is assuming you've never played anything ever before.
It's
I really do have a problem with the arena
there's those pieces of media that just assume that their audience are just a bunch.
Did I lose you?
Fucking morons.
Oh, yeah, I lost you guys for a second. I'm trying to start up. Oh god. Hold on. There's another game I'm trying to start up, and it's playing loud music, so I need to disable that. Never mind. We're not doing that. Can't change the music levels. Sorry to anyone's ears on the stream. Oh, where did Ian go? Are you still there, Jaden?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Did Ian say anything about leaving? I'll look for something to entertain people, anyone watching still. But, Geometry Wars was really loud. To the all-important thing that I've been working on, because I have to read everything like 5 fucking times. I don't know if you can see this, but if you've got Discord open, you can share it here. Can you see my screen share?
I think I'm gonna go.
You think you're about to leave?
Yeah, I'm about to leave.
Okay. Well, hey, you go ahead and have a good day.
Thank you.
And take it easy. All right.
It's easier here. Yeah. You
Oh,
too.
it's easier.
Bye.
Okay. Well, shit. You take it easy though. All right. I love you, comrade.
All right. Talk to you, I guess.
All right. Later.
Bye.
All right. I love all my comrades in a friendly way. Those are great people. We've got a Marxist document here. It's got the theories and everything. Overall, deafened. I'm deafened. Twitter's just going off right now. DF Action endorsed Nina Turner. Ilhan Omar has endorsed Nina Turner. So we got all of it. Jesus. How long have I been doing this? That was I feel like that was a pretty good conversation overall. 2 hours. I do appreciate everybody for tuning in. Wow, that went by fast. Pretty decent overall conversation. I think it was productive. Fun. I really enjoyed having Jaden jump in, so I do appreciate that. Oh, and Ian is also out. Okay. So we've got people. Hopefully we can get Jaden in some more. Let's go with Capital's such a thick fucking book. Here, we're gonna stick to some of these. So we've got a bunch of I don't know if you can see that, but there's like 45, 40, well, 45, 46, 7, 8, 9. There's like, yeah, 49, 50 something sources in this thing. Not all of which are numbered all the way through. But I use these quite frequently because they're a pretty good overview of things. And then for anyone who wants to say I haven't ever read anything, it never shows that I've clicked on these a bunch. Now what's this? Oh, look at that. Every single one of them has been clicked. This one I listened to on audiobooks. But you can also just try and read through this log. Editor's preface. Prefaces. Which is things that were added in after, so they're actually relevant. You do need to read them. And then Book 1, Capitalist Production, Part 1, Commodities and Money. Chapter 1, Commodities. And then just fucking tome. This is the second fucking tome. Pretty sure, unless it got added in twice somehow. Oh, I think it did. The law of capitalist accumulation. Yeah, this book is fucking dense. So I guess I got put in twice. That's a thing. So about 50. Go ahead and delete that. Delete that. Boom. 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 This is what I have the biggest critique of, as far as leftists. Now hear me out. I don't have a problem with the global south using Marxist-Leninist ideologies in part for their movements. The ideology was built to help non-industrialized or under-industrialized societies become industrialized. That's what it was developed as. Maoism was developed off of this for the same thing, but specifically for China. So there's a lot to read here. And then you've got Stalin. Which was obviously false. So, oh yeah, look at all this. This is the generally accepted historical evidence on things. And it even goes into Maoism. So we'll go over this, but I need to use the restroom. So, here, let's actually do a thing. Here, we'll do All right. Well, we're back, so we can go over some criticisms I have, having read through this entire extensive Wikipedia and talking to Marxist-Leninists. This is the one thing that I'm a little okay with. Like, I think the atheist worldview is generally less harmful, but I'm not going to want to, like, legislate out or crack down on people having religious liberties, being able to celebrate religion and shit. You know, that's generally not me. But I do think that for running a political establishment, not establishment in the sense that we have like the establishment, but like a political body, we should not have religion come into play there. Good old Mao. See, theories I agree with a lot of the ways. The practices I disagree with in some of the ways. It's interesting. Okay, we're just gonna have a nice little chat about this. So, we've got the ideals of communism, which I think are wonderful. They're beautiful things. Let me take off my coat. But the things that we strive for, wonderful ideals. Definitely things worth striving for. Democracy at work, you know, workers owning the means of production, less exploitation. Good stuff. Abolishing commodity form. Now I know that would have to happen in steps and in phases and blah, 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 blah. So there's kind of a transitional phase, if you will. But, ooh, that actually picks up like everything. This microphone, super good. But I think that the transitional phases are interpreted in a multitude of ways, and some of them are fairly positive, and some of them I think are highly detrimental. Marx wrote, oh, Discord notification, 1 minute. Ah, yeah, okay. Obviously gonna accept a friend request from Jaden's a good person. But we've got the ideals that say Trotsky was actually trying to go for, which is like global communism with revolutions starting with workers in the South. Now that's not all of Trotsky's ideals, but that's what I agree with from Trotsky. Because I think we need the global South to be liberated. We need black people all over to be liberated. Because without them, what good is a socialist movement? What good is socialist society? If we keep people underfoot, what good is my anarchist ideals if we have oppression of an entire fucking group of people based on socially constructed crap? Like race? The fuck? No. Get that shit out of here. Discrimination against Nazis is fine. That's a political ideology. But I don't want oppression to stand. I don't want coercive and unjust hierarchy to stand. And thusly, eventually, I want to abolish the state. Can't happen immediately, as far as I'm concerned. And so anarchists, as well as communists, need to set aside their very, very mild differences and work together on common goals. We should be focusing on things like mutual aid. We should be focusing on getting better people in the electoral process. We need to focus on expanding people's participation in the electoral process. Granted, the state will not fucking save us, but it can, with the right people, with the right ideals, with the right policies, help ameliorate the struggle. Help make things better for the average person. That's my biggest concern at the moment. We need to help people. If we can get help to people by pushing with our ideology, we can start to radicalize them, showing them, hey, the people who are fighting to get you these things, it's us. And guess what? This isn't near enough for us, but this is a decent start. So let's get moving. We've got shit to do. Work on organizing your community. My community is really hard. I don't speak Spanish very well, and I live in a very heavy Latin community. But I can try. So I think we all need to put in a little bit of effort in working with the community. Literally the basis for the word communism. Communal effort. And yes, we have to take these ideas, change them around a bit. Oh, let me bring back up chat. We need to take these ideas and we need to interpret them, analyze them, and apply them with a modern lens for how things are working today. That's a big thing. I've come across quite a few people online who have read a lot of theory, more theory than I have, I'll admit, but they, A, misinterpret, in my opinion, a lot of the theory, and B, never do any actual work. They read theory, they consider themselves better than the average person, they sit in the lefty circle jerk, and nothing gets accomplished. You don't radicalize people. And as we discussed with Jaden and Ian, there was a big disconnect with infighty lefties and also being able to talk to or tolerate a liberal. I mean, I get it, guys. Liberals aren't the best. But who's more likely to work with you? A liberal or a fascist? Well, if you're a tanky, a fascist is more willing to work with you. But they're not on the left, so get that shit out of here. So yeah, we got work to do, everybody. Begin mutual aid efforts. Start working within your community. Start showing compassion, helping where you can. Just help each other get through the rough time that everybody's in. Kind of what we're here for. The only way we survived as a species is by communal work, helping each other and sharing. It's such a basic concept that Sesame Street tells it to people. Sharing is caring. They're not talking about fucking shareholders. But children don't have money. They don't have resources in the same way. And even then, Sesame Street's like, if you have a snack and your friend doesn't have a snack, you should share your snack with your friend. Because that's a child's resource. Then they try and talk about how everybody can be your friend. So, again, if a child can understand what needs to be done, I'm very confused why there are adult leftists speaking on Twitter about what needs to be done without putting forth any actual effort. I at least talk to people. I try and work around with people near to my community at the very least. And if I can find somebody who's good at translating, I could potentially start working within the community that I'm actually in and getting some real work done. That's a roll joint. Hopefully that makes sense to everybody. Like, I really do hope that it doesn't sound fucking crazy. Alright. That takes up way too much. I got off of Discord because everybody left. Oh. Oh shit. Well, you take it safe, Ian. I just saw those messages. Yeah, I went ahead and just jumped off of the Discord. I like to analyze it.
Which would you prefer? Socialism, equal amounts of poverty. Capitalism. Everything that exists is owned by Obama Prism.
Okay. Socialism done left is fun. Hey, look. There you go. Bernie. Where's the news? There it is. Yep. Yep. Of course he could. Okay. Nothing here of any fucking importance. So let's go to Telesur. I gotta go over, let's see if there's anything new. Oh God.
A young woman's body has been discovered in Trinidad and Tobago 6 days after she went missing. The World Health Organization confirms third Ebola case in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And Peru's president swears in new health minister as anger mounts over the management of the coronavirus pandemic. Hello and welcome to Telesur. I'm Doris Polo in Quito, Ecuador, and this is From the South. Trinidad and Tobago held its breath when a woman disappeared after boarding what she believed to be a taxi in Arima in the east of the country on January 29th. The body of 23-year-old Andrea Barrett was discovered 6 days later down a cliff, sparking outrage and calls for greater protection of women. Since then, the incident has placed the nation on an emotional roller coaster, with protests outside the parliament demanding change. Candlelight vigils were also held across the nation, with the latest taking place on Friday night. Barrett, a clerk at the Arima Magistrates Court, was cremated yesterday amongst hundreds of mourners. Haitian political parties have officially received copies of a draft constitutional reform bill for their evaluation. The Minister of Electoral Affairs, Matthias Pierre, announced the delivery of the draft to 94 political organizations. The bill.
Okay, so this is good because Haiti was about to be embroiled in some major civil unrest, potentially civil war. Last I'd read up on. And so there's a revisional draft to the Constitution being handed out to the political parties to agree on. So this is a pretty good sign that things are moving in the direction of not escalating.
The bill addresses the establishment of a presidential system, which includes the replacement of the Prime Minister by an elected Vice President and the dismantling of the Senate to be replaced with a single-chamber National Assembly. The bill also allows access to governmental and legislative positions for Haitians living abroad and authorities holding multiple nationalities. The final vote on the bill is scheduled for April 25th.
Okay. One National Assembly where all the political parties meet, that would end up with a lot of long-winded deliberation a singular time as opposed to spaced out twice. But, I mean, this year is actually looking pretty decent. Like, they're trying to step up and be like, okay, let's not have the civil unrest. We don't need a bunch of people being super pissed off and protesting and potentially, like, rioting. Not necessarily good. So let's get this draft constitution thing. We'll go over it. I personally think that one grand assembly thing is a major mixed bag because the Senate was made for slower deliberation, but I think that can cause some problems sometimes, you know?
In other news, political differences between Kenya's President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto came to the fore again on Friday. At a political rally, Kenyatta dared Ruto and his allies to resign if they are not satisfied with the current administration. Without mentioning names, the president told a crowd of supporters that one cannot continue to insult people while also taking credit for the government's success. Kenyatta and Ruto fell out following the decision by the head of state to mend fences with opposition leader Raila Odinga. Media reports indicate that Ruto's allies are planning a mass walkout from the ruling party. At least 3 people have been killed and 8 others wounded after a car bomb went off near a security point in Somalia's capital, Mogadishu. Witnesses said they heard gunfire and saw police officers chasing after a vehicle suspected to be carrying Al-Shabaab fighters before it crashed into other automobiles and exploded. Mogadishu is regularly targeted by the Al-Shabaab group linked to Al-Qaeda, who have been carrying out long and violent insurgency seeking to overthrow the internationally recognized government.
I was at the checkpoint of Village Somali near Sayedka Junction, and I saw a car with explosives speeding towards the checkpoint, and then I heard bullets being fired at the car. The car went off as soon as it hit a tuk-tuk vehicle close by. I saw more tuk-tuk vehicles and cars that burned after the blast, and I also saw a severely wounded man who later died on the site of the attack. I only saw one dead body.
Moving on, authorities in the Democratic Republic of Congo have confirmed.
Jeez, that's a pretty quick moving on. Holy fuck. No, I mean, I know that the main story here is the Ebola cases, but I'd focus a little bit on that bit, you know? Fucking car bombings is, I know it happens a lot. That doesn't mean you can't take a look at it and analyze it a little bit. I don't know a whole lot about the situation. I know that Somalia is having some unrest. I think ISIS is trying to take a position there, last I remember reading. I could be wrong on that. Please don't quote me, as if it's fact. But it's still something worth looking at. Even if it's commonplace, I do think it's something to kind of look at and go, hey, there needs to be something to address this. There just needs to be. It's a big deal. Not the individual one, but the fact that it's a commonplace bit. It needs to be addressed, and it needs to be addressed not necessarily with force, but with negotiation, soft power, figuring out what's going on. Now with like ISIS, I don't necessarily know the correct answer there. Yeah, the aid we sent wasn't really necessarily good aid, especially under a fucking Bush presidency. Bush was responsible for Desert Storm too, right? Pretty sure. But yeah, with the current batch of things going on, I'm not 100% sure about what's going on in that situation. But I do know that it's bad, and that if there's something that we can do with aid, as in like actual mutual aid, helping, sitting down, working out with problems in the country, trying to help fix okay, yeah, aid was money and guns. The money part, not necessarily that bad. The guns part, possibly, probably, almost guaranteed, because it was Bush, to be bad. Well, because it was anybody, really. But we should probably have, like, infrastructure building going on. You know why China is so fucking powerful right now? It's not because they have the biggest military, although they do have a pretty large military. It's because of the Belt and Road Initiative. They partnered with so many countries on building infrastructure in those countries. It's a bit nutty.
Confirmed a third Ebola case in the North Kivu province. Moving on, authorities in the Democratic Republic of Congo have confirmed a third Ebola case in the North Kivu province. According to the Ministry of Health, The new case was found in Butembo, a city of 1 million people and the epicenter of the major outbreak of the disease that was declared last June after nearly 2 years. On February 7th, authorities announced the resurgence of the virus after a woman died a few hours after testing positive for the disease. She was married to a survivor of the previous outbreak. A new outbreak would be Congo's 12th since the virus was first discovered near the Ebola River in 1976.
The national minister announced to the national and international community that that is the 12th epidemic or the 12th case of the Ebola epidemic.
Staying in Africa, Nigeria is getting tough on coronavirus rule breakers by fining.
Okay. That's such a short thing to have. Like, that's the fucking title. New Ebola case detected in the DRC, and there's no looking over it. I mean, I'm a little glad in a sense because that gives me a chance to come in and be like, hey, and not have to skip ahead. I can just be like, all right. So, new Ebola cases found. Okay, so trace back the origins of where it is. Maybe we need to figure out an effective way to combat that. The U.S. with its universities is sure to be able to fucking help. I mean, we have OU Medical. There is so much that this country and other countries could do to help, but we just don't. If we used fractions of our wealth, the top 5 wealthiest countries, if we just used a small fraction of that wealth, we could build the infrastructure for pretty much all of Africa and South America, where they can at least be able to have fucking clean drinking water on a regular basis, decent roads, and electricity. Housing as well. Nothing fucking super extravagant for all the people, but we could contribute to this. We just don't. And even the countries we do send aid to, a lot of that aid is incapable of going to what it needs to. Specifically because of the nature of what's going on in those countries. But we've got to do some work.
And sentencing individuals to jail in a new outdoor mobile court in the capital, Abuja. Back in January, President Muhammadu Buhari signed a new law ordering a 6-month jail sentence for those disobeying the guidelines. In Africa's most populous country, face masks are compulsory in public spaces and social distancing is advised. Nigeria is facing a second wave of the pandemic with more than 140,000 COVID-19 cases and almost 2,000 deaths. A new strain has also been discovered in recent months, but it is not known whether it is more contagious or deadly. Meanwhile, the country is expecting to receive 16 million doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine through the COVAX facility by the end of the month.
The impact of the mobile court is what you can see around Abuja. Everybody wearing face masks. Everybody is just putting on face masks around Abuja. If you go to Karo, you go to even neighboring states like Maraba, that are border community, you see people putting on face masks. You go to areas like Kubwa, you see face masks. And in this area here, you see everybody on face masks. Everyone fully on face masks. And even the corporate entity are having their sanitizer, their sanitizers, their washing point already. And that's the beauty of it.
So the court sometimes, the court imposes a community service on them. It gives a fine, the payment of a fine, or an option of community service for 2 weeks. That's what the court does, but it is the discretion of the court. The court can send to prison.
Now the United
Okay, so discretion of the court, when there's a choice between the sentencing. Fines are a good deterrent if you can't afford to pay it, or it's harder for you to, but you can still manage, but barely. They're not a good deterrent if you have a lot of money. Jail is a better deterrent if you have a lot of money. Now, I don't like jail. I'm not a fan of this policy, even, necessarily. I understand the reasoning behind it. From a utilitarian perspective, it's not that bad of a policy in some regards. But in other regards, consequentially, it can be used in a lot of negative ways, with this is set as a precedent, so you kind of have to weigh that. Let's see what's next.
United Kingdom's Supreme Court has ruled that cases brought by the Niger Delta communities, Bill and Ogale, against Royal Dutch Shell can continue in English courts. Lawyers described the ruling as a watershed moment for the accountability of multinational companies. The judgment overturns a previous decision by the Court of Appeal and marks the end of a 5-year battle for justice. The two Nigerian communities of more than 40,000 people say decades of pollution have severely affected their lives, health and environment. In fact, in 2011, the UN concluded it would take 30 years to clear up the vast amounts of pollution in the area.
Okay, so pollution cases going forward in an English court from another country. That's pretty good. I enjoy, in a sense. I think the context of that's good. So, consequentially, not a bad thing.
Dozens of Tunisian youths blocked roads in the Tataouine region on Friday in anger over unkept government promises to provide work and investment. In November last year, the administration of Prime Minister Ikem Mechichi pledged to create hundreds of jobs and a fund to launch economic projects in Tataouine after talks with union leaders and protesters following months of demonstrations. 3 months later, the protest movement launched further strikes, saying concrete measures had not materialized. Tataouine has an over 30% unemployment rate, one of the highest in the country, while poverty is around 17.8%.
That's pretty bad. And that's, I think, by the, what is it, the IMF standards? Which they change all the time to make it seem like people are getting out of poverty when they're fucking not. That's kind of frustrating. Dozens killed in Yemen in the last 24 hours. This was yesterday's. Okay, so we got to the part that I was wanting.
Houthi fighters launch new offensive in northern Yemen. Lebanon kicks off coronavirus vaccination campaign. And a 7.3 magnitude earthquake shakes.
As an American, hearing a vaccination or a shot being called a jab is unsettling. But that's just my cheese-muddled American brain.
Eastern Japan. Hello and welcome to Telesur. I'm Doris following Quito, Ecuador, and this is from the south. Dozens of people have been killed in overnight clashes between Yemen government soldiers and Houthi fighters in the Marib region. 2 officials said at least 16 pro-government forces were killed and 21 wounded in the past 24 hours, adding that dozens were killed among Houthi ranks. Earlier this month,
Oh, that's not me. That's just their thing.
the Houthis launched a new offensive to capture the region from the government. Yemen has been embroiled in a bloody power struggle since 2014 between its government, supported by Saudi Arabia, and Houthi rebels who control the capital Sana'a and most of the north. Lebanon has launched its vaccination campaign a day after receiving the first batch of the
Okay. Not how you spell it. Okay, I need to know more about this before I actually try and analyze this. So let's look over who the Houthis are. Houthis because of its founder is from the Houthi tribe. The Houthi movement is a predominantly Zaydeh Shia force. Okay, the Shias. Okay. Yeah, Houthis have a complex relationship with Yemen's Sunni Muslims, discriminated but also recruited. As an opposition to former Yemeni President Ali Abdullah Saleh, whom they charged with massive financial corruption and criticized for being backed by Saudi Arabia and the United States. I would criticize them for that too. At the expense of the Yemeni people. At Yemen and Yemen's sovereignty. Alright, now I can actually read it all. Hold on, I was out of place. Okay. Resisting Saleh's orders for his arrest, Hussein was killed in Sana'a in 2004, along with a number of his guards by the Yemeni army, sparking the Houthi insurgency in Yemen. Oh. That was Saddam Hussein, right? Yeah? Okay. Since then, except for short intervening period, the movement has been led by his brother, Abdul Malik al-Houthi. Oh, Hussein. Nope, this Hussein. Okay. Under the leadership of Hussein Badreddin al-Houthi. The group emerged as an opposition to former Yemeni president. Okay, so they charged him with financial fraud and stuff. And then he resisted orders, so yeah, they just killed him and a bunch of his guards, sparking the insurgency. Promoting regional political religious issues in its media, including the overarching U.S.-Israeli conspiracy theory. Okay, hold on here. Hmm. Jesus. Yeah, that was led by Nazis. Yeah, that's obviously bad. Like, bad. Government needs ruling military council that rigged the election in favor of the Muslim Brotherhood candidate Mohammed Morsi. Well, I mean, to be fair, to this one in particular, yeah, there kinda has been. The Crusades were about killing Muslims and Jews to reclaim and take over the territories that they controlled. Meanwhile, Muslims at the time merely saw people coming in and attacking them, and it was just aggression, and so they fought back. They didn't see it as a holy war. And when they learned that it was a fucking war of ideologies, they went, wait, so they were actually trying to destroy us? And then the US does shit like, go invade Iraq and invade, go into Kuwait, and, I mean, that one, kind of maybe, I don't know. I'll have to look more into that. Not necessarily justified. But, trying to take out Muslim leaders throughout the world. The overthrow of fucking Mohammed Mossadegh. Do I need to point that out? CIA coup Mossadegh. 1953 Iranian coup. CIA is quoted acknowledging the coup was carried out under CIA direction and as an act of U.S. foreign policy. There's kind of been that trend going on for a while, so I'll give them that one. Houthi officials have rejected the literal interpretation of the slogan. This in and of itself, not necessarily bad. They're not literally calling for the death of all the people in the US, they're just calling for, like, the removal of the state, which, in a very different sense, I agree, but still very bad optics. Definitely bad optics there. When you're a Muslim group saying death to Israel, that gives no good interpretation. This one, very bad. Just outright. Curse the Jews. Just no. Bad. Get that shit out of there. Victory for Islam? So overall, I'll give this an F for optics. I mean, I get being mad because the leader of your movement was just trying to charge this guy with corruption and fraud, and then he got murdered over it. And so you're pissed. But this whole bit is really bad. You can't go around with this one. So, I'm gonna say they're pretty not good.
Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine. Under the plan, medical staff and those over the age of 75 are to receive the jab first. In total, the country hopes to receive around 6 million vaccine doses, including 2 million from Pfizer-BioNTech and another 2.7 million via the International COVAX distribution program. Lebanon has registered about 337,000 COVID-19 cases with 3,961 deaths since its first confirmed case last February. In a press conference, Prime Minister Hassan Diab officially announced the launch of the vaccination campaign after the country gave its first COVID-19 vaccine dose to a health specialist and an elderly actor.
We are launching the national vaccination campaign against COVID-19 with high quality, effective and trustworthy vaccines. Afterwards, we will begin to gradually free ourselves from the restrictions that this pandemic forced on us, and therefore life will come back to the various sectors after we reach the desired social immunity.
Saudi Arabia has extended its COVID-19 restrictions for 20 days in an effort to curb the spread of the coronavirus in the kingdom. The Ministry of Internal Affairs decided to extend part of the prevention and control measures, which started on February 5th and was expected to end in the first week of March. Those restrictions include...
Okay. Holy shit. This is a clusterfuck. Oh, I'm sorry, the rest of this is fairly irrelevant to me. I mean, powerful earthquake in Japan, that's bad. People getting vaccines is good. Extend coronavirus restrictions to make sure people can't. I'm not 100%, yeah. But this is a fucking major clusterfuck, holy shit. Okay, so what I'm reading here is in 2014 2015, the Houthis took over the government in Sana'a with the help of the former president, who they charged with corruption and being backed by Saudi Arabia and the US, and then announced the fall of the current government of Abdurabu Mansur Hadi. Houthis have gained control of most of the northern part of Yemen's territory, and since 2015 have been resisting the Saudi-led military intervention in Yemen that seeks to restore the internationally recognized Yemeni government, which, you know, whatever. Additionally, the Islamic State militant group has attacked all of the conflict's major parties, including Houthis, Saleh forces, the Yemeni government, and the Saudi Arabian-led coalition forces. The Houthis have launched repeated missile and drone attacks against Saudi cities, widely seen as a proxy war between Saudi Arabia and Iran. Huh. But yeah, with all the shit that's gone on, I don't like radicalized Islamic, Christian, Jewish, doesn't matter. If you're a religious fundamentalist, a religious extremist, I don't like it. I'm pretty sus about it. See, I'm not... This is weird. They officially deny the anti-Semitism, but that's not true, as far as I can tell. That's my opinion. 100% my opinion, and my opinion alone. Anti-Zionism, I mean, to be fair, I don't see... I do not like... I'm okay with the Jewish self-determination in most senses. I dislike ethnostates. So, not a big fan of Israel. Their actions kind of piss me off. Jewish people, perfectly fine. Love them. Not a big fan of the country. Not a big fan of most countries, actually. I love a lot of things about, like, my country. I like a lot of things about Japan. I dislike the fact that it's kind of an ethno-state. It's killing the country, for one. So, I've got criticisms for countries that I like. I like Japan. But it's got fucking issues they need to work on. This plays into it as well.
The Secretary of State of the United States, Anthony Blinken, recently said that he does not support the recognition of the sovereignty of Israel over the occupied Syrian Golan, even though noting that the territory is relevant to Israel's security. The Syrian government considered that these statements do not implement any change in the Washington policy of unconditional support of the Israeli occupation of the Syrian territory. Our correspondent has the story.
Washington has no legal foundation to speak about the sovereignty of the Israeli entity over the Syrian Golan Heights, like Tel Aviv does not have the right to claim this Syrian territory. This is the opinion of many Syrians who endured that this is a Syrian Arab territory, and it will always be like that, and that they would not stop fighting until its total liberation.
Netanyahu does not have the right to say that Golan is going to remain under the sovereignty of the Israel entity, because East Palestine is a territory that belongs to the Palestinians and the Arabs, as well as Golan is a Syrian Arab territory, and without question it will remain like that. Syrian people and leadership are determined to continue the struggle to release occupied Golan and recover all occupied territories.
In spite of this new position of the United States administration, which contradicts the position of a former President Donald Trump regarding the occupied Syrian Golan, and on the ground the situation remains the same. The Israeli occupation regime, with the support of Washington, continues with its colonialist plans in that Syrian territory, in addition to stealing its natural resources and expropriating its growing land. It uses this territory as a platform from which launch continuous aggressions against the Syrian people and army.
The presence of this occupying entity in the Syrian territories is not legal and violates all international and humanitarian laws. And this violation continues with the support of the United States. So, the change of position on this matter, it is no more than an act of media propaganda that contradicts the actual U.S. action in favor of the Israeli occupation, which is the essence of the problem.
In the War of Liberation of October, 48 years ago, the Syrian Arab Army recovered a third of the Syrian Golan occupied by the Zionist entity. However, and despite the numerous resolutions of the United Nations General Assembly and its Security Council, which demanded to put an end to the Israeli occupant since 1967, the Zionist entity has under occupation an area of 1,200 square kilometers, rich in natural resources, located in the south of Syria, a situation that the Syrians are committed to change in disregard of Washington's support to the Israeli occupation of this Syrian territory.
I 100%. We should have never gotten involved in that mess. And then the fact, but see, we love colonialism. We love supporting fascist governments. It's fucking, it's our pastime. It's our bread and butter. We do it without thinking. Zizek or Chomsky? Why not both? I like both guys. They didn't convict.
There's a Harvard lawyer by the name of Eileen Connor, and she's going to discuss here whether or not Biden has the legal authority to cancel student debt. Watch this.
I'm going to talk about one simple question. Is it legal for President Biden to cancel student debt? The answer is yes. He can do it today, without any other action by Congress. Let me explain why. Imagine you lend me $20. It's your $20. You can ask me to pay it back in full, in half, or not at all. Student debt cancellation works the same way. When someone takes out a federal student loan, they're borrowing money from the government, and the Constitution gives Congress the authority to control property of the government, such as debts owed to it. When Congress gave the Secretary of Education the authority to make or back student loans, it also gave the Secretary the broad and unrestricted power to cancel or write down that debt. This power was established under the Higher Education Act in 1965. That law gives the Secretary of Education the authority to compromise, waive, or release any right, title, claim, lien, or demand, however acquired. The Secretary also has the authority not simply to compromise debt, but to modify a student loan to zero. Secretary Betsy DeVos actually used this authority to cancel out a limited amount of student debt. Now, it's important to understand the purpose of the Higher Education Act. It was to make the benefits of higher education widely available, especially to those who otherwise couldn't afford it. Nobody else but the federal government was willing to lend to people with no credit history, no means, and only the chance at a bright future. But we decided to do it because education is so important to us as individuals and as a country. But the intent was not what we're seeing now. Worsening the racial wealth gap, driving up costs, reducing affordability and access, and triggering a repayment crisis. The nation today has a $1.7 trillion student debt burden, owed to the federal government by about 43 million Americans. At the Project on Predatory Student Lending, we represent over 1 million student borrowers who were cheated by for-profit colleges. And this is an industry that aggressively targets and scams people who are looking for jobs and careers in order to get its hands on federal student loan dollars. Their priority is enrollment, not education. We see how defaulting on student debt can cause poor credit, food insecurity, homelessness, inability to pay household debt, barriers to employment, and mental and physical health issues. It holds people back in their decisions to get married and have children or to do certain kinds of jobs that we as a country need doing. And this burden impacts the whole family, the whole community, the whole economy, not just the loan bearer. But we've also seen how debt cancellation can liberate Americans and their families. And with the COVID-19 pandemic, the government has paused federal student loan payments through September 2021. This has freed up households in this pandemic to spend money and help keep our economy going. And the ability to do that falls under the same authority to modify or outright cancel debts. In these examples and others, the law is clear. President Biden has the legal authority to cancel student debt. And doing so is not an end, but a beginning of necessary change we need to invest in higher education in a different way so that millions more Americans are not cheated out of their futures and saddled with student debt that they can never repay.
Yep. That's absolutely right. Biden should absolutely do that because it costs nothing. It affects us in no way. Except positively.
Yemeni soldiers fire at Houthi positions west of Marib. The Houthis are trying to seize the city, the internationally recognized government's last stronghold in the north. Their spokesman says they're only targeting government forces, but residents dispute that.
We call for an immediate cease of the belligerent war against civilians in Marib. There are no military barracks or posts in the city. There are no militants or fighters in Marib. It's only home to civilians, students, and displaced Yemenis.
Yemen's government has been locked in a power struggle ever since the Houthis captured the capital Sana'a in 2014. It's called on the people in Marib to help the army defend the city. Yemeni commanders say they're determined not to lose control of it.
Marib will always remain steadfast, standing as high as the Serwa Mountains. By virtue of its brave men, the men of the National Army and popular resistance, along with the honest tribesmen, we're all standing in defiance, defending the city. Marib is and will always be the heartland of our republic.
Saudi Arabia has invested heavily in Marib in recent years. The Saudi coalition has intensified airstrikes to stop the Houthis from seizing the city. The upsurge in violence comes as the US is due to lift its terrorist designation for the Houthis on Tuesday. President Joe Biden, the United Nations and aid groups fear the designation is worsening an already catastrophic humanitarian crisis. The UN says 400,000 children in Yemen could die from starvation this year if they don't get help. Victoria Gatenby, Al Jazeera.
Hassan Al-Taib is the...
Okay, that's definitely bad. They're going to analyze this from their perspectives. So, let's get their perspective.
Legislative manager for Middle East policy at Friends Committee on the National Legislation. He joins me now live via Skype from Washington, D.C. Good to have you with us on the programme. It does seem that the focus of the Houthi offensive is to rid the government forces from their sort of last northern stronghold. How does this, if at all, change the balance of power in that part of the country?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. The fight in Marib has been going on for about a year now, and it's really sad to see any violence in Yemen escalating. And it's unacceptable that civilians are paying the price of these warring factions, whether it's the Houthis or the Saudi UAE-led coalition. And I truly hope we can see justice and accountability on anyone that's perpetuated violence against innocents. I think it goes to show that, there's much work to be done, on behalf of Yemenis to advance peace. It shows that, the Houthis have made an immense, they have a lot of momentum militarily, but, the international community needs to do what it needs to do to support diplomacy and a peaceful ceasefire negotiation.
You talk about diplomacy, but where does this actually leave the Saudis, who continue to back a beleaguered government under pressure to resolve this very quickly? It seems the only way they can resolve this is militarily, and they're not doing that very well if you take their position when the Houthis seem to be advancing.
Yeah, I don't think there is a military solution in Yemen. It shows that the coalition is failing militarily, despite a massive power imbalance via the Saudi coalition's air force and airstrikes, and them inflicting maximum harm on civilians, as they have been for the past several years. If the U.S. exits and gets its allies to exit as well, it will leave the Saudis completely isolated. Biden on the campaign trail called Saudi Arabia a pariah on the international stage because of the war in Yemen and because of Mohammed bin Salman's ordering of the murder of Jamal Khashoggi. So, 6 years of waging war on Yemeni civilians have been completely unjustified. And it really, like I said before, it makes Saudi Arabia even more isolated than they already were.
That's absolutely true. Because Saudi Arabia is an authoritarian, theocratic state. Theocratic monarchy. He's bad. He's real bad.
We are seeing a policy shift, though, aren't we, from the US? This is becoming, will be problematic for the Saudis, when in fact the US Secretary of State only mentioned a few days ago that they're going to lift the terrorist designation from the Houthis. How does that change the equation?
Yeah, Saudi Arabia, for a long time, they were lobbying the Trump administration to label the Houthis as a FTO or a foreign terrorist organization. And it's not shocking that they are keeping their terror designation on the Houthis in place. But, I should mention that Saudi Arabia isn't delivering any substantial amount of humanitarian aid or funding or doing, work on the ground. And they've been using food as a weapon since the start of this war through their air, land, and sea blockade that's choked off the flow of food, fuel, and medicine. Biden has lifted the United States
Which is a war crime.
foreign terror organization designation. I believe Tuesday will be the official date. And that, I think that's significant because that's going to allow humanitarian aid operations to move forward and help protect innocent Yemeni civilians who are, millions of suffering on the brink of famine. And again, it makes Saudi Arabia even more isolated as they perpetuate this terrible war and blockade on the majority of Yemen's population.
Hassan Al-Daib, it's good to get your insight. Thanks very much for joining us from Washington, D.C.
Thank you.
Not good, people. Not good. Everybody went away. All right. Well, if that's the case, and everybody's gone. Thanks everybody for watching. Y'all take it easy. Hope to see you again. If you liked, go ahead and like, subscribe, and comment down below whenever this gets uploaded.